Hello and welcome to Les Sables d'Olonne in the west coast of France for our live coverage of the 2016 Vendée Globe. I'm Alec Wilkinson. Joining me in the studio, you've just seen a glimpse of Adi Kafari, who sailed around the world 5 times. But that doesn't stop her getting excited on days like this, when 29 sailors from 10 different countries are about to set off from this little port to race solo, without assistance and non-stop around the world. And that is why they call this the Everest of the seas. You were a competitor in 2008. Is this really the toughest competition out there in ocean racing? And this is the route that they'll be doing.
Well, it is tough. They head out of the Bay of Biscay at this winter time. They head down to the equator, around the South Atlantic, high pressure there. Then they're going to circumnavigate the Southern Ocean. They're going to go round Antarctica under the Cape of Good Hope, across that Southern Ocean, passing south of Australia and New Zealand, across the Pacific, and then they're going to go round that notorious location of Cape Horn, a sailor's dream, head back up the Atlantic. The South Atlantic is always a pretty hard leg there. They're going to go back and negotiate the equator again, and then that last final stretch in, returning back to Les Sables d'Olonne in France. Approximately 3 months. 40,000
miles. Kilometres in fact, about 3 months, as you say. The winner did it in 78 days 4 years ago. And the atmosphere here at Les Sables d'Olonne, it's a small port on the west coast of France, looking out across the Atlantic, but about 350,000 people have turned up this morning to bid farewell to these 29 sailors. And over the next few hours, we'll bring you all the colour and excitement from the dockside. And believe me when I say that the atmosphere is unbelievable.
It really is palatable, and you know that we're going to say goodbye to 29 sailors. And we're just hearing from the first skipper here, Didac Costa, the Spaniard that's taking part.
Je suis impressionné pour la magnitude de ce événement, c'est incroyable. Je voudrais remercier l'accueil ici à Les Sables. J'espère vous voir al retour, à Tormans, al retour ici. Merci.
So he's saying there that he wants to return home. He's hoping to be only the second Spaniard ever to complete this race. And the first Spaniard was Jose Dugarte in 1992-93 race. Since then, we've had Javier Sanso retire twice, and also Unai Berserko retired once. So his experience has been the Barcelona World Race, and he's actually sailing on a very famous boat there, the Kingfisher, that was the boat for Ellen MacArthur, the famous British skipper, the Le Petit Anglais, that finished second, the best result for British skipper, second in the Vendée Globe. And his boat captain there just behind him, Alice Gilbert, he's actually the co-skipper that he had for the Barcelona World Race. So they know the boat well, they've prepared well, and this is his great adventure for flying the flag for Spain.
Ellen MacArthur, previously the youngest sailor to compete in the Vendée Globe, but that record will be broken today when Alain Roura of Switzerland sets sail. More on him a little bit later on, but right now the moment belongs to the Spaniard, one of 14 rookies setting off in this fleet of 29 around the globe, single-handed and unassisted. And unassisted is a crucial part of this race.
That's right, they can't stop or get any outside assistance at all, so all you have is your shore team to give you advice by email or on a satellite phone, but ultimately you have to be the master of all trades and the jack of them all as well. Everything has to be self-sufficient. And the emotion, I think, is really tied today because we say goodbye to the 29 skippers, yet we know that not 29 skippers are going to cross that finish line. The edition I did in 2008, we had 30 cross the start line and only 11 finished, just to put some kind of perspective on it. So it really is setting into the unknown for these sailors. You kind of prepare as much as you can, but the Vendée Globe is always full of surprises.
Hundreds of thousands of people along the dockside, a small handful of those are allowed onto the pontoon on the morning of departure. Their family and sponsors and part of the team. You were in Costa's position in 2008 as the first person to sail out. How will he be feeling right now?
It's a little bit surreal. I was very excited, and you can see from Didak's face there that he's quite relaxed. He knows his boat, he knows what he's got to go and do. But it's unbelievable, this atmosphere that's created, and the fact that you're on the dock with all these people wanting to say goodbye and wanting your final words, and you've done your private goodbyes to your family and friends. The time schedule is very strict for these boats to get off the dock because there's a tidal window to get these boats out of the marina. And the shore crew are just keen to make sure everything happens smoothly, and you're just there just to soak up the atmosphere, wave goodbye, and start this massive adventure. So it's amazing, but it's unbelievable, these crowds of support that are there. The people that I heard arriving past my apartment this morning were at 4 o'clock this morning to get their place along the canal that the guys are going to sail past. So it really is impressive.
Yeah, we always have to leave early to get to the commentary booths and commentary studios early so that we don't get caught up in all the traffic and this festival atmosphere that, as you said, started in the early hours. And there is a schedule to be followed, as you've touched on, Dee. It's quite a tight schedule because of the tides. They have to get these boats out. So over the next hour and a half or so, we'll see the departure of all 29 skippers. And then they have a time of just under 2 hours bobbing around on the water, preparing for the start.
Je suis très content de partir avec ce bateau qui a déjà montré qu'il était fiable et performant, et c'est une belle histoire en tout cas qu'on va essayer d'écrire tous les deux.
So very happy to be on board his boat, Paul Meyer of SMA.
Enfin, on va vivre des moments qu'on vit peut-être qu'une fois dans sa vie, donc il faut essayer d'en profiter aussi, et tout en restant très concentré parce que c'est délicat comme moment en termes de préparation de bateau.
And he would be pleased with his boat because he's sailing the one that won the last edition of the Vendée.
That's right, his boat was in fact Massif, skippered by the winner Francois Gabard in 2012. He hasn't had the ideal preparation that he would have liked because not that long ago he had a serious injury on board the boat. It had to be airlifted off his boat, and then it took 3 weeks for his boat to be rescued. He left the boat in the Azores and it floated and drifted towards Ireland before they actually managed to recover the boat. They spent a lot of time checking the boat, putting it back together, but for Paul, he had to recover from quite serious injury, broken ribs and broken legs, and so he's gone through a whole rehabilitation himself.
And I'm guessing it's not just a physical damage to him, but psychological as well when you go through that.
Definitely, I mean, he will have lost a lot of confidence just going through that process. But it's part of putting that behind him and moving forwards, and I think his confidence in the boat will be good because the boat drifted and was recovered and still in good shape, and they're ready for the race. He's got a very competent team around him, and he's another rookie in this race, so he's kind of going out to try and fulfill the potential of the boat.
And his first time sailing round the world, which, well, I can't. I mean, you could set off on a round-the-world passage, but to do it in front of so many people for the first time must really add to the nerves.
Well, it kind of adds to the whole adrenaline-fueled the weight. You know, he's a very competent Figaro sailor, and he's stepped up. He was selected to step up into this campaign. He's proved his results in the short course sailing, and now he's putting it on the world stage, literally. And I think he'd be interesting to watch. If he can keep the boat in one piece, keep his head together, he'll be, you know, living his dream, and we'll see a future for this guy.
Now, the race presents significant challenges for the whole 3 months as Meyer sets off. Name some of the worst that he'll be concerned about.
Well, your biggest concern is always illness and injury because you're the only person on board. You've got to look after yourself, and obviously having his injury, he's going to be, you know, very conscious of that. And then it's just anything that's beyond your control. So you can fix sails, you can fix mechanical things, but if something is structural that stops your race, that's beyond your control, that's when the frustration sets in. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. They've got to get to the finish line to be successful, and it's not always the easiest thing to do.
Here's the rock star of the race, Alex
very
Thompson.
Happy to be going, happy to take this machine on the voyage together, and we'll see what happens.
What can we say about the first day? Are you confident about the first week?
I'm always quite nervous about the start, but you know, I feel happy to be sailing, happy to be doing what we've been preparing for 4 years for. So it's a special moment, special day, and I look forward to this canal. It's a unique experience.
Your goal on the Vendée Globe?
Finish and win. Yeah. Thank you.
That's his aim, to finish and win. He's one of 5 sailors competing in the race for a 4th time. And of the 3 he's done so far, he didn't finish in 04, he didn't finish in 08, but he managed 3rd in 2012. How do you think he's going to do this time?
Well, he's the biggest threat. So it's a French-dominated race. Alex Thompson's flying the flag for Britain. He's the only British skipper in the race. His 4th time entry, and he's the unknown as far as the French are concerned. He's a very fast sailor. His boat is a weapon, and if the 2 of them can stay in one piece and keep it together, he's the threat for the French in winning this race. He's confident. It's his 4th time. It's you know, an amazing boat, and the weather window that they've got leaving is a gift. So he knows it's a good start, and it's about him managing that and not getting too overexcited and pushing too hard, too fast, too early.
Just whilst we wait for a shot of the Hugo Boss, Alex Thompson's boat, just listen to this atmosphere for a second. When you approach big stadiums around the world and there's a big football match or cricket game or rugby match, whatever the sport, you hear this, the crowd, you hear this sound, this throb as you approach the stadium. Here we have 350,000 people spread along miles of riverbank and along the shore. And I reckon if you were driving into Les Sables d'Olonne now, you could probably hear this miles away.
Oh, for sure. And the volume is immense, and it's not just the horns, it's the people. And they all have their favourite skipper that they're supporting, but it does not matter. They will shout and cheer for every single skipper as they go past. And that's really quite incredible. And I know Alex is a naturally emotional person, and even now, 4 years on, you can see in his face it's still an emotional finish, and he's got to, you know, saying goodbye to family and friends. He's got an amazing team supporting him. So that's why the prep is good, and he's in the position to be as relaxed as he is.
All right, let's go for it. Have a nice day.
Chance to shake final hands, take the final photos before heading off. And this crowd, although they go mad for their French skippers, they are here really to support everyone. It is an international support.
Yeah, and
c'est une chance, c'est enfin une chance de partir.
Bah ça y est, on y est, ouais. C'est aujourd'hui le départ. Voilà, impatient d'être dans le chenal. Il paraît que c'est un petit shoot d'émotion, donc on va prendre ça, on va prendre tout le positif avant de passer en mode guerrier.
So they were just some final words from the next skipper to leave, Thomas Bruon on La Soufflée du Nord. He's a rookie, so he's really taking in all the atmosphere and looking at the boats ahead leaving. As Alex there just leaves the dock, we can see SMA going around the corner, and Thomas is going to be next.
Yeah, Thomas Rouillard, 35 years old, heading off for the first time in the Vendée Globe. He was hoping to be in this position 4 years ago for the last edition, but he didn't manage to get the finances together, but he has done this time. As the front boat goes past that castle and Ferris wheel, Hugo Boss boat, all in black with a touch of silver, built by Green Marine and launched in 2015, heads away from the dock. Now the thing about that new boat of Thompson's is that it capsized on its maiden race across the Atlantic. Thompson needed rescuing. he's kind of got used to things like that happening. So do you think it will have phased him? How much of an interruption to the Britain's campaign will that have been?
Well, I think, you always learn from these instances and you grow in confidence after experiencing things like that and coming out the other side. So he's kind of seen it all and been there, done it, everything. So he's quite relaxed when things like that could affect him. But what it meant was that he couldn't get the miles on his boat that he wanted to. So he's back on his first generation boards, his foil system, and he would have liked to have probably been on his second generation with the time to test. He's not worried about that. The team are confident that it's going to perform, but it's just, having that extra bit of mileage gives you that extra bit of confidence in how hard you can push the boat. But he's got his first generation boards, he's done 2 transatlantics, and that's when the French first saw the potential threat of Hugo Boss, when he led that New York Les Sables race, and then with instrument failure ended up coming 3rd. So they're knowing that if all his boat stays together, he could potentially be, put a dampener on their spirits. Given that there's always been a French winner of this race, this is what we're trying to change in history.
Well, if anyone can do it, Alex Thompson can, with his vast experience of this race, his 4th attempt, and such a beautiful boat.
She does look like a scary weapon.
She does look like a scary weapon. I was looking at it from the pontoon close up yesterday, and it is all black inside, apart from some kind of fluorescent green bits, and I think the rudders are as well, right at the back of the boat. So there's a bit of colour at the back, but otherwise it is just black carbon fibre. And I was actually wondering how you don't go stir crazy in those sorts of surroundings for 3 months on your own with no colour to look at.
It is definitely an environment you get used to. And we're just seeing images here of Jan Elias. Back in 2008, he did the Vendée Globe and was rescued. So this is his return. Let's hear what he has to say.
Ouais, c'est un moment qui est pas facile, parce que il y a le ventre qui est tout dur, il y a les larmes qui sortent. Forcément, quitter la famille, c'est pas évident. Quitter les terriens, c'est jamais évident. Mais bon, dans quelques heures, on va devenir enfin un vrai marin. Savourer ça pendant 80 jours, et puis au retour, il y aura des larmes, mais cette fois-ci de vrai bonheur et de plaisir. Mais là, c'est vrai que c'est compliqué. On n'est pas des surhommes, on est des petits hommes tout simplement qui partons pour 3 mois en mer avec la boule au ventre. Mais voilà, dans quelques heures ça va passer, et puis on va enfin pouvoir participer et savourer ce Vendée Globe.
On te sent plus serein qu'il y a 8 ans.
Ouais, j'essaye d'être plus serein. J'ai pris un peu de bouteille, tout ça, mais bon, c'est la petite là qui m'a fait craquer. Émilie, elle a 5 ans, quitter son papa. Les grands aussi, qui étaient un peu en larmes. Je pensais que ça serait plus facile que ça, quand même. On espère toujours.
Bon moment, Yann.
Ouais, merci.
Elias expressing some complicated feelings, he said, as he leaves his family. He says goodbye to the shore. We're just simple men heading out to sail around the world, he said, and his mind will be on the fact that in 2008 he had to be rescued by the Australian Navy. He broke his femur. He was in a disastrous situation, but was saved, and will be heading off with some trepidation, I imagine.
Yeah, but he's the guy that came back stronger. That year when he was rescued off South Australia, he actually came back in the summer to win the Solitaire de Figaro. So he was straight back in the game. And I think this has been a long time coming for him to get back onto the Vendée Globe. So he's got a boat that used to be the old Safran. He's tried and tested, and he's very confident with his old style boat that he can push it at 100%. So he'll be one to watch if, the non-foilers are going to have an opportunity.
Elias's boat was one that you were racing against in 08-09, finished 3rd. And we've got a real mix of boats. Brand new ones, 7 brand new foiling boats, but also lots of different generations of boats that date back back to the, I think, early 2000s race.
Yes, indeed. Some of the boats are from 1998, which we'll talk about when we get to them. But what happens then is out of 29 boats, you get a races within the race. So we're going to have lots of groups that we can compare, that we can talk about later on. So there's those that are the foiling generation, those that are leading the non-foilers, those that are in the mix, and then those more Corinthian adventurers that are out to make sure they get round the world. As the first boat is just getting now, Didac Costa's just getting now to the end of the channel. Open ocean awaits him, and he's got time with his team to set his boat up, ready for the start that will be at 12:02 GMT.
This channel and the port of Les Sables d'Olonne, you'd think it was built for this. It's almost like a stadium port, because you have the marina where the boats are docked, and then you have this long channel that takes some time to travel down. A chance for everyone to say farewell, to wave the boats goodbye, to have a good look at them. And there's no mistaking, this crowd are knowledgeable about what they're looking at. Not just about the characters on board, but also the equipment that they're sailing. And it has been an absolutely glorious couple of weeks weather-wise. This part of France at this time of year, you'd expect it to be grey and drizzly, and I think we might get some rain round about lunchtime for the actual start of the race. But for the moment, we had a sunset last night. We've had a beautiful sunrise this morning. But the question is, Dee, red sky at night, red sky in the morning. What is it a sailor really wants?
Well, they actually have been given it this race. This is potentially one of the best weather start lines ever for the skippers. They're going to get beautiful, reaching downwind conditions all the way now down the Atlantic, off to put like straight out the Bay of Biscay to Finisterre, the corner of Portugal, down the Portuguese coast, down to the doldrums, potentially breaking that record that's held by Jean Le Cam of 10 days, 11 hours to the equator. And that is looking like that potentially could get broken down to about 6 or 7 days. They really are looking at fantastic conditions off on the start line today.
Well, this 8th edition of the race will struggle to break as many records as the last edition, which broke 6 records. The fastest to the Cape of Good Hope, fastest to Cape Lune, the fastest to Cape Horn. Then we have the shortest interval between first and second place. Incredible, only 3 hours and 17 minutes when you think that they've been racing for so long and so far. And then the shortest interval between the first and the last boat as well, which sounds a lot, 26 days, 17 minutes, but nonetheless, lots of records broken last time. We shall see what happens this time with the foiling boats. Certainly the speed record we would expect to go.
Definitely huge potential there, but Jan Elias there on Kegenay is hoping that tried and tested is going to win. He's hoping that the foilers may have some issues and that he'll be able to tuck in there. He's probably one of the favourites with alongside PRB that we'll come to later, that will do very well if the foiling generation don't make it around the world, because there's still that massive question mark hanging over this new technology of the foilers. Yes, they've got incredible speed differences, but they do not know if these foils can actually make it all the way around the world.
Because they've never done it before?
No, so it really is kind of really testing ground here, and we'll just see. But there's some, you know, obviously Jan's made that decision to stay non-foiling. He's got a lighter boat as a result. He's confident with how to sail it, and if he can keep his boat in one piece, he'll be ready to pounce if the opportunity arises.
We're waiting for the Edmund de Rothschild boats, skippered by Sebastian Joss, to set off as the press and the crowds swarm across the pontoon to try and have a word with the sailors. And this is a poster that you need to say with a French accent for it to work. All you need is globe. Kekinye sets off in this wonderful November light on the west coast of France. And their first direction as they set off into the Atlantic will be what? Do they go straight south or do they head out?
Well, for the first time, normally at this time of year, you expect a depression to be in the Bay of Biscay and you have to head out northwest almost before you can tack through that front and head south. But with the weather conditions we've got today, northwesterly, the breeze is going to build as they come out of the Bay of Biscay, and they're going to be heading straight line down to Finisterre, the corner there off the edge of Spain and Portugal. They're going to get an acceleration zone at Portugal there and head into maybe 35 knots. They're going to be doing some jibes as they head downwind in some pretty strong conditions, which is why this is straight line sailing, fast and furious, straight into it. So they haven't got any scary upwind, big weather to go through. They're going to head straight down.
Ça y est, c'est bon. Merci Patricia, merci à tous. Salut. Au revoir Monseigneur, merci de votre passage.
Fabrice Amadeo from New Rest Matmut.
Bah ouais, voilà, c'est parti. Comme je disais à l'instant, je me suis réveillé ce matin, j'ai regardé le ciel, je me suis dit, bah tiens, aujourd'hui, 6 novembre 2016, je pars faire le tour du monde. J'en rêve peut-être depuis que je suis gamin, et bah, aujourd'hui, voilà, je pars sur le Vendée Globe. Et je suis, merci, je suis vraiment plein de bonheur, hyper serein, je m'étonne moi-même. Voilà, j'ai bien dormi jusqu'au bout, je suis pas du tout dans un effet de nuage, etc. Je me sens vraiment concentré sur mon truc, j'ai regardé ma météo, j'ai regardé, enfin il y a un quart d'heure j'étais encore avec Eric Perron avec qui j'ai fait la Jacques Vabre qui m'a fait mon routage départ. Je sais que l'équipe a assuré, donc je me suis occupé de rien dans les dernières heures là, et je me sens super bien. Voilà, le rêve commence et j'ai hâte d'y aller.
C'est ça, c'est un rêve qui se réalise?
Ouais, c'est un rêve qui se réalise, et puis moi j'aime le large et là j'y vais pour de vrai et je vais loin, et donc je suis très heureux. C'est un truc de fou. Ouais, je suis serein. Bah, je suis d'autant plus serein que ça fait 2 ans que je me dis ça va être la guerre dans le golfe de Gascogne, tu vas passer 3 semaines à terre à signer des autographes et puis tu vas te faire cueillir à froid, il faudra éviter l'écueil du premier front, etc. Il y a eu tellement d'abandon sur les éditions précédentes, on le sait. Là, bah, il va pas falloir partir à la fleur au fusil parce qu'il y aura quand même les dangers, les éternels bateaux de pêche au Cap Finistère, les cargos, le DST Finistère, etc. Enfin, tous ces dangers qu'on connaît bien. Mais il n'empêche qu'on part dans des conditions clémentes et que normalement, s'il y a un problème, je lève le pied et il doit rien se passer dans ces conditions.
Merci Fabrice.
Merci.
The fastest speaking Frenchman on the dock.
But did you notice how relaxed he was? He's smiling, he's saying he's realising a dream. You can see the emotions of the people saying goodbye to the skippers. But he's realising a dream, he's looked at his weather, he's had Eric Perron supporting him that he did the TJV with, that he's looked at the weather with him. He's happy he's got good weather to Finisterre, but he's saying he's concerned about the fishing boats and the shipping lane there at Finisterre. They are not allowed to impede the traffic separation scheme, otherwise they will get a penalty. That's Jean-Luc van den Heed, a previous entrant into this, and the guy that actually sailed the wrong way around the world as well, a man close to my heart.
Now, Fabrice Amadeo is an interesting character because, he's a rookie to the race, 38 years old, and not a sailor by profession really, but a journalist. He works for Le Figaro in Paris. But as you said, he's realising a dream that he's had for many, many years. He's managed to put the project together, and now he's got to go out there and prove that he's a good enough sailor to get around the world. No easy task. He says he's got used to the idea of being alone.
Well, that's a good job, given that he's got a few months ahead of him.
Well, it's tough, you know, if you spend your career in a busy newsroom surrounded by people and noise the whole time. I wonder how you do adapt. But these guys have all sorts of coaches and trainers helping them, and that isn't just physical, but it's psychological coaching as well. And certainly Amadeo said that he's had some of that psychological coaching to help him cope with being alone and being tired and being hungry and all the other terrible things that will afflict them over the next 3 months that, well, those of us who stay on land cannot even begin to imagine. Hugo Boss with Alex Thompson on board with that Union Jack flag around his neck, always looking smart, dressed by his sponsors, and pretty famous now for his stunts that are all over the internet.
Yeah, when he's not sailing around the world, he's performing, whether it's a mast walk, a keel walk, a kite surf over his boat. He's pretty much done them all, as Jan just soaks up the atmosphere there.
He does, and every one of those people along the bank will know who he is and what he went through with his injury during the 2008 race. And that is what drives these people to come out to Les Sables d'Olonne, which is a fairly remote part of France to get to. It's a tourist destination. But let's hear now.
Quito, le 3e départ, c'est le bon?
J'espère. Enfin, le 3e départ, ouais, le 3e, ça va le faire. C'est surtout l'arrivée qui nous attend dans 3 mois. Voilà, entre ce départ et cette arrivée, il va se passer plein de choses. On va vous raconter plein de belles choses, j'espère. Alors, on sait bien qu'il y aura aussi quelques larmes sur ce Vendée Globe, mais on essaye de vous raconter une belle histoire. Et nous, avec Basilotio, on est voilà, à bloc pour faire un joli tour.
Quito Pavon there for the skipper of Bastide Ottio. This is his 3rd departure, as he says, but he's never actually finished yet. So he's hoping to change that in this edition of the race.
55 years old, Quito de Pavon. Incredible amount of experience. He sailed with all the big names of French sailing. He's done all sorts of long-distance, offshore, ocean racing. An excellent sailor, but a clever strategist as well.
Yeah, so in previous editions, 2008, he dismasted pretty close to the beginning in the Bay of Biscay, and 2012, he had a collision with a fishing boat that stopped his race. So he's going to be very cautious around Finisterre, where it's busy and where he's previously had issues. And we'll be looking to go the full circle and come back into Les Sables d'Olonne.
That's right, 2 attempts, no finishes yet. But he does believe in himself that he can still challenge the leading pack, certainly of the non-foiling boats.
Definitely, he's got a very good boat there. It's the old Verbac 3 from 2010, so it's a competitive boat. He just needs to keep it all in one piece.
Sailed by Jean-Pierre Dick, another legend of the Vendée Globe. He'll be setting off a little bit later on.
This is quite unusual now. We've got images from Newsrest Matmut with Fabrice actually driving his boat. Not many of the skippers drive the boat out the channel because they're busy waving, as Thomas is here soaking in the atmosphere. The crowds are literally both sides of the channel, 5 deep, hanging out of windows of apartments, just wanting that wave from the skipper.
And what is the process of getting out there?
So you travel out, your shore team are on board with you, you get to wave and soak up the atmosphere and say goodbye and just realise what you've taken on. Any guests that have that experience with you, they have to leave the boat at the end of the channel, and you saw Hugo Boss taking off their guests. And then you and your team set your boat up and get the boat ready, do any little checks with any sails. The boys make sure, or your team make sure you're happy. And then the final time they need to be off is before the 4-minute gun. So the departure is 8 minutes, 4 minutes, 1 minute go. And your crew have left you by the 4-minute gun. So many of them are off around 10 to 15 minutes beforehand.
Just some basics for those who are tuning into the Vendée Globe for the very first time. Some basics on the boats. We've talked about the foils, huge sail areas, engines, toilets.
Well, no, toilets are generally buckets. There's no fixed toilets in these boats at all. And engines, some of them have motors and they seal the motors now once they go out so that they can't be used for propulsion. And one interesting engine in this fleet is an electric engine that works differently, which we'll talk about when we get to.
So once they are out, a jury member comes on board, an official, and puts a seal on that engine.
That's right, it's sealed and it's photographed and you sign it and then you're done.
Conrad, first
Conrad Coleman.
From New Zealand.
Yes.
Very important for you?
Yes, for sure. Par rapport à ça, j'ai un avantage par rapport à mes adversaires. Okay, sorry. I have a big advantage over the rest of the fleet, and that is that my homeland is at the midpoint of the route, which means that when I leave here, I'm going home. But now I live in France, so after I've passed New Zealand, I'm going home again. So I'm always on the going in the good direction, the way that my heart will lead me, and I'm excited to be here today. It's fantastic.
What is your feeling at this moment? Particular moment?
Look around. This is incredible. It's an incredible moment of satisfaction. I've been working on this for a long, long time with my wife, and it's really a really proud moment to be here with her and with everybody, and to be ready, truly ready to participate in this incredible adventure. So it's an honor.
Confident about the start, about the first days, about the first week of navigation?
I know how to do the next bit. Once we go across the line, I'm a professional sailor. I know what to do. I know what strings to pull. I know which way to go. So yeah, I'm excited. Now let's get on with it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm not surprised he's confused as to which language to speak. He lives in France, born in New Zealand, moved to the USA at the age of 15. And this is a dream come true, his first Vendée Globe for Conrad Coleman, flying a joint New Zealand and USA flag on board 100% Natural Energy, the name of his boat. He's a businessman, he's a sailor, and he has a real history with this race, having worked with Steve White, the British sailor, on his 2008 Vendée Globe campaign.
Well, it's his third time around the world, this race, so people underestimate him as a newbie, but actually he's done the Global Ocean Race, where he raced a Class 40 around the world, and actually had to rescue his co-skipper, Sam Goodchild, just off the Cook Straits. So he's kind of experienced the worst there, and he also took part in the Barcelona World Race with Nando Farr, who's going to be another competitor in this race. So now, you know, his fellow competitor. So he's got experience. As he said, he's been after this for a long time. He literally secured his final sponsor to get the communication budget together to tell his story just days ago. So he really has been putting everything into this. Moved to France to help make it happen, learnt the language, has been sat on the dock doing all the work himself until just recently.
And this part of France is the home to so many sailors, isn't it? It is safe to say it's the home of offshore sailing, certainly in Europe anyway. And if you want to get on, it doesn't matter where you're from, you've got to come here, because this is where the resources are, where the sponsors are, and where the knowledge is.
And the passion, we spend a lot of time explaining it to the rest of the world, and France just seem to get it. And I think when you see sites like this, for these 29 skippers setting off around the world, you don't get that anywhere else. And I think then you realise the passion that's in every single Frenchman for these intrepid sailors heading off.
Highly fit, intelligent, multilingual, most of these sailors, and in Conrad Coleman's case, also, you know, a businessman. He studied business at university, and that is the case with a lot of these guys, because it's not just a case of being a sportsman, it's also a case of being a businessman, to be able to get the backers and the sponsors to put one of these projects together. What sort of money does that take?
Well, you know, these new boats are looking at €5 million build costs. And then even if you have an older boat, it's about €1 million a year running cost to get this together for a Vendée Globe.
Let's listen to the youngest skipper in the race.
Je pense que c'est le plus beau jour de ma vie, il n'y a pas de mots pour expliquer ça. C'est un rêve, c'est un défi qu'on s'est lancé, et c'est une énorme fierté d'être là aujourd'hui, de voir tout ce monde sur le ponton, et je suis vraiment très très honoré d'être là. Parce que c'est le jour le plus important de ma vie, et je pense qu'il faut le vivre pleinement. Et cette veste, elle m'est chère, elle vient de Nouvelle-Zélande, et c'est juste avant que je me sois lancé dans la course au large. Et j'ai toujours rêvé de passer le chenal des Sables d'Olonne avec, et donc aujourd'hui j'ai sorti le grand jeu, et voilà, j'ai la casquette, le petit pantalon blanc qui va pas durer longtemps, mais en tout cas voilà, j'avais besoin d'être avec cette veste sur le pont du bateau dans le chenal.
Il vous reste assez de larmes encore, Alan?
Je pense qu'il y en a encore pour quelques jours à mon avis, mais c'est des larmes de bonheur, donc c'est que du bonheur d'être là.
Vous avez réussi à trouver le sommeil, vous avez rêvé toute la nuit?
J'ai dormi comme un bébé, et on a dû me lever ce matin tellement j'étais bien dans mon lit, mais voilà, c'est comme ça, c'est le Vendée, c'est la magie. Il faut qu'on parte, il faut qu'on y aille maintenant.
Vous laissez votre tour. Merci.
Aurora, he is loving every minute of this. He slept like a baby. It's the best day of his life. He's 23 years old. He doesn't care. He's just living the dream right now. Always been a free spirit. He gave up school in Switzerland at the age of 13, said, you know what, I don't want any more of this, and spent the rest of the time traveling the world, working in boat yards, learning about boats, learning about sailing, and here he is on La Fabrique, setting off on his very first Vendée Globe at the age of 23, the youngest sailor ever to compete in the Vendée Globe.
And his boat has a history as well with Switzerland, designed and built by Bernard Stamm, a previous sailor in the Vendée Globe, as Amalux in 2000. So it's really keeping the flag with the boat, and that's great for Switzerland.
Lots of tears on the dock, and he's finally started to blub as well. His dad introduced him to sailing. They sailed together when he was a kid. And However he does, he's done incredibly well just to be here on the start line. And something tells me this won't be his last Vendée Globe. I think we'll probably be commentating over pictures of him departing for the next, well, I don't know how many editions of this race.
It's great to see, and it's lovely to see the honest emotion from the skippers. I thought Conrad was going to crack when he was being interviewed, but he held it together, and Alan's just let the tears flow. And everybody will love him even more for that.
One of the men that the fans have come out to see. We just caught a glimpse of him just then. Jean-Pierre Dick, we'll hear from him in a moment as this crew enjoy the atmosphere. And it's all about putting on a show as well, isn't it?
Oh, it's entertaining. They want to see how you are in those last few moments before you cross the start line. So the fact that you're excited, you're enjoying, you're entertaining, and you look like you want to be there. I mean, I think Alan's just overcome with emotion because he's actually got to the Vendée Globe, age 23.
We were talking about what it takes to put one of these projects together. That must be even more difficult when you're 23. But let's hear from Jean-Pierre Dick.
Quatrième départ de Vendée Globe, toujours la même émotion?
Ouais, l'émotion est toujours là. Forcément un peu moins d'appréhension d'aller dans le Grand Sud, mais le déchirement du départ avec voilà, les siens, les amis, toujours très émouvant. Ça prend un peu d'énergie d'ailleurs.
Comment ça va se passer là, ces premières heures de course, ces premiers jours de course?
Ça va être assez dense parce que il faut aller vite pour s'échapper au seul repos. Ça sera un peu après Lisbonne, d'une part parce que cette dorsale nous aura laissé éventuellement passer, puis d'autre part parce que on pourra se relaxer un peu, les pêcheurs seront un peu plus loin et voilà, il y aura moins de risque de heurter un cargo ou donc là on pourra vraiment se dire bon ça y est, t'es parti, t'es dans le plaisir. Les 2 premiers jours ça va être dans le dur plutôt.
Ça va nous permettre d'avoir quelques indications déjà sur le potentiel des foilers?
J'imagine, oui, on verra, ouais. Je pense que tous les bateaux vont pas être groupés. Oui.
Merci Jean-Pierre, bon vent.
Now that's interesting because all the other skippers have talked in general terms about their feelings and emotions. Jean-Pierre Dick, heading off for his 4th Vendée Globe, seemed to be quite concerned about the obstacles that he faces on the way, about the Southern Ocean.
Yeah, I mean, he's realistic. He knows what's ahead of him. And I mean, he said, yes, there's always going to be emotion here this day, but he's actually thinking ahead now to the race already. He's saying it's a fast start, but he's concerned about the shipping and the fishing and the hazards around the Portuguese coast. He's looking ahead to the south, you know what the weather's going to be like. He, for one, definitely knows that it isn't the easiest race to finish. He's been in line for a podium and then lost his keel just a few miles from the finish line and had to nurse his boat in, missing that podium.
That was in 2012, 2013.
So that frustration, yeah, that frustration to be there because he's been so close and he's known for winning everything double-handed. But he's never quite secured a single-handed win, and he was so close to a podium and missed out. So he's got something to prove, and he's got a new boat, a new foiling generation boat he wants to deliver. He's had a great relationship with his sponsors, and he's back for more. And, you know, he's a technician. His attention to detail is very good, and he knows he can do it. He's just got to put it into practice now. So I think he just thinks slightly differently, you know, to the 4th time round. He's a bit of a veteran at it now, as opposed to the rookies getting a bit overexcited with the actual moment in time.
Fabrice Amadeo there continuing his journey out towards the start line. I think he's out of the canal now and heading into the open sea. But Jean-Pierre Dick, you don't get to race 4 times in the Vendée Globe without becoming a superstar in France. And I was amused that because he literally couldn't sit on the boat all day, every day, to have his photo taken with the fans that were coming down in their droves. So they put a cardboard cutout of him beside his boat, and that everyone was taking selfies. And I'm sure those are doing the rounds of social media. This is another French legend, another superstar in France, Jean Le Cam. We'll hear from him and his boat Finistère Mervin a little bit later on as we watch the Swiss boat of Alain Roura heading off up the canal towards the open sea. Jean Le Cam making this trip for a 4th time at the age of 57, hoping to go one better than his 2nd place in 2004. But he's not on a foiling boat. So what are his chances?
Well, he's always one to watch. You never know what you're going to get with Jean Le Cam. There was a massive crowdfunding campaign to get him back in this race of Yes We Can.
Jean, c'est une nouvelle aventure du roi Le Cam.
Ben ouais, en plus là, le roi Jean avec le prince Albert, hein, parce qu'on m'appelle, je suis désolé, mais je suis le roi Jean. Donc j'ai fait une photo avec le roi Jean et le prince Albert. Avec ça, si on fait pas le buzz, alors, hein, parce que nous, c'est Yes We Can quand même. Hein.
So his nickname is King Le Cam.
Oui. Eh ben, ça y est, d'ailleurs, j'ai l'impression
You're saying he's very pleased because he's had his photo taken with Prince Albert of Monaco, who'll be starting the race. A real character. A legend is King Jean. And he's given us many memories of his campaigns in the Vendée Globe, especially his duels with the British sailor Mike Golding and Vincent Riou, who saved him from disaster in 2008. That was a tough race you were in, wasn't it? There were lots of problems and issues.
Yeah, it really highlighted just, you can get blasé with, oh, we're all going sailing and we all know what we're doing, and then you get a race like 2008 that really reminds you just how difficult things can be out there. And I think it's, they've all discussed all the safety options and implications of things that can happen. And these boats push technology all the time, so they're always on the edge. And I think, you know, when you go through a race and experience where your fellow competitors have something terrible happen, it's a big reminder that the ocean is quite a hostile environment to be in.
And that's an important element of these sports, whether it's motorsport, whether it's sailing, whatever the sport that involves technology, is that they are pushing the boundaries. They're trying to see how far they can take their technology. And that is just as important really as competing, but that also adds an element of doubt as to what could happen and what is able to happen, what these guys can actually do safely despite all their safety training and coaching that they go through before they're allowed to start the race. And I think this could be potentially one of the most exciting races in the history of the Vendée Globe, dating back to the very first edition in 1989. Why? Well, there's a real mix of experience and ages and boats, as we've discussed. Foiling boats for the first time. And when you put that combination together, you're not really quite sure what you're going to get. Jean-Pierre Dick on board, doing a little jiggle, giving the fans what they want to see. And I suspect that's his own team crew doing an interview with him on board the boat as well.
Quito really has been working the crowd all the way out this channel now. He's been getting them all to cheer together, conducting his orchestra until he's happy with the volume.
Well, they know they're not going to speak to anyone for 3 months, so they may as well enjoy the company of other human beings whilst they can.
And you really do take this this experience, these last few moments, you take that memory with you for at least the first week to just make you, remind you what you kind of left, what sent you on your way.
And I imagine that the hardest times through that Southern Ocean route, which I think makes up 3/5 of the actual route, so you know, you're down there in the Southern Ocean facing icebergs and cold for all that time. The memory of this departure and the thought of what awaits you when you arrive back at Les Sables d'Olonne is what keeps you going.
Definitely, and actually this is a time to say that you pretty much get this on your arrival as well. No matter when you arrive and what nationality you are and in what position you're in, you almost get the same kind of volume of people cheering you in, having achieved success. And that's almost one of the key things that those that don't make it all the way around the world is the bit that they miss the most. I remember Mike Golding saying to me what he missed most was that entry into the channel where the cheering is literally just for you. And here you see Alan really overcome with just how generous the supporters are.
And for somebody like Alain Roura, who's going through all these emotions, it must be quite difficult to then refocus and actually start the race and concentrate on what he's trying to do. Let's hear now from Nandor Farr of Hungary.
I'm really excited because of this nice moving moment. Say hello for the family, for the crowds, for this nice, beautiful people. I know them since decades, and built up something which we enjoy. And this full organization, the feeling is really overwhelming me. So I don't know exactly what to think. Just I feel myself, I let myself drifting. I enjoy very much.
You seem to feel quiet.
I'm quiet, the boat is ready, myself is ready. The weather is all right, so everything is good for me. I love it. I love it. It's optimal. Too nice. Maybe we will pay the price later.
Thank you, Goodwin.
Thank you very much.
One
Lovely,
of four,
relaxed there.
yeah, one of four competitors in their 60s. He first competed in the Vendée Globe in 1992, and he managed 5th. The race after that, he had to retire because of boat damage. His aim this time is just to finish. And there's a real man of the seas, Nandor Farr.
He is, and actually his boat is designed by him, built in Hungary with his yard there. And in '92, when he finished in 5th place, it was also a self-built boat. So he's pretty confident that he knows what he's doing. He's adapted his boat since it's been built. It's gone through a few modifications. So it will be a real credit to him if he does cross that finish line later on, of success of his boat and flying a big, flag of pride for Hungary.
Yes, good to see 10 nations represented in this fleet. Traditionally, it's been a very French race. We've got almost, well, we've got 10 nations represented out of 30. Why do you think this time we have so many foreign skippers? What is attracting them to the Vendée Globe?
Well, I think it's the passion that you can just see displayed by everybody here and the amount of goodwill that's put there. But it's an emotive story. It's one person, one boat around the world. It's a very simple story. It can be a dream, and you can do it on so many levels. So within our 29 skippers, you can be an all-out competitor, or you can be an adventurer, and there's everything in between. So we see Jean Le Cam leaving here in his 4th time on the old Foncia, so it's a boat that won in 2008. So he's got a pedigree boat there, and he's the type of person that can get it around the world and do well. So you've got Conrad Coleman there from New Zealand, doing it for the first time and doing it, pushing boundaries of no fossil fuel whatsoever. So he's the boat with the electric engine in, which we can talk more about later. And then we've just seen Nandor Farr, who's been involved with this race since 1992. He's lived it several editions. And then we're about to hear from the Japanese skipper, the first time a Japanese skipper's been involved in the race.
Or indeed any skipper from Asia, from the Far East.
Yeah, so, really, the Vendée Globe is stretching far and wide.
La compétition, la vraie, commence.
Ouais, alors d'abord il y a le chenal. Et moi je vais surtout pas brûler les étapes, j'ai vraiment envie de savourer chaque moment. Il y a eu le village, là maintenant on va partir, il y a une émotion avec toute l'équipe. Et surtout je veux vivre l'émotion, vous dire au revoir. Je veux vivre ça vraiment fort intérieurement et je veux vivre cette parade vraiment intérieurement fort. Après il y a la course, et pour moi c'est pas vraiment une compétition, pour moi c'est une recherche d'harmonie entre mon bateau, moi et la mer. Et ça passe par bien naviguer, me respecter. Je pense qu'on part toujours des héros, des surhommes qui ne ressentent rien ou qui sont capables de faire des choses extraordinaires. On est juste des gens lambda. On va naviguer, on va essayer de se faire du bonheur, d'apporter du bonheur. Et moi, je veux surtout porter mon message de comme un seul homme sur la différence. Voilà. Donc, je profite. Voilà. Merci.
Oh, well, good for him. He's looking forward to his race and achieving a harmony between himself his boat and the nature that is around him. Eric Bellion, 40 years old, setting off on his first Vendée Globe on board Common Solom, which is all about raising money for charities. 14 sponsors have committed to projects promoting diversity, which is one of his specialisms in the business management company that he has run up till now.
And his boat was the former DCNS that took part in the 2008 race, and in 2012 it was used to film a feature film about a Vendée Globe skipper called Turning Tide, and it was the story of a French skipper that does the Vendée Globe with a stowaway on board. Oh. So I'm hoping all these skippers have checked their boats that there's no stowaway on board.
Is it any good?
It's a good film.
Recommend it?
Yeah, no, I actually enjoyed it. They did it very well because it's very hard to kind of film sailing and the action offshore, and they did a really good job with it. I would recommend it to anyone. Turning Tide.
Turning Tide. We'll look it up. Yes, a lot of these films tend to be filmed in a swimming pool with a wave machine, and it doesn't quite work, does it? Every vantage point at Les Sables d'Olonne is taken by the 350,000 fans that have turned out, that turn out every 4 years in this small village that is built on tourism now, but 100 or so years ago was built on the fishing industry. Hundreds of fishing boats set sail from here every morning and every evening. But now it's about tourism, it's about offshore sailing, and he's pumped. Conrad Coleman is enjoying every second of this on board 100% natural energy. And I'm pretty sure that one side of the boat, he does have the silver fern of New Zealand.
Undoubtedly. I saw him having an All Blacks on his shirt for the interview there. Jean-Pierre Dick dancing earlier was because he was cold, so he's just putting his jacket on there because it is bitterly cold. This northerly wind is down to 4 degrees out there.
Let's hear then from Shiraishi.
Vos impressions, comment expliquez-vous cette ferveur ici au Sable d'Olonne?
今の気持ち、このサブルドローンの空気を聞かせてもらう。いや、本当幸せです。みんなによくしていただいて必ず帰ります。Je suis très content. Je suis très content d'être ici et je remercie vraiment tout le monde de m'avoir accueilli comme ça. Et rendez-vous dans 3 mois ici au Sable.
Premier concurrent asiatique à prendre le départ d'un Vendée Globe, ça c'est une sacrée histoire aussi.
Vendée Globe 初のアジア人、これも素晴らしいストーリーです。はい、そうですね。とても幸せだと思いますので、しっかりこう走りたいと思います。Oui, je vais faire en sorte d'être un bon exemple en tant qu'asiatique et de bien revenir ici au Sable.
Est-ce qu'il ressent beaucoup d'émotions aujourd'hui?
今日のお気持ちはどうですか？感動の気持ちとかどう出ます？春風のようです。C'est comme le vent du printemps. Je suis frais aujourd'hui.
Est-ce qu'il est confiant pour le départ et pour la suite?
スタートとその次からその気持ちはどういう気持ちですか？いやもういつもと同じように走りたいと思います。Je vais courir comme tous les jours. Il y aura pas de changement.
So nothing will change. He's going to sail as he does every day. Take each day as it comes. Kojiro Shiraishi, the first Japanese sailor to take part in the Vendée Globe ever, a very experienced round-the-world sailor. At 26, was the youngest sailor to sail solo around the world, so he knows what he's doing, and so does his boat.
He does. His boat actually was BT in 2008, and then was Hugo Boss in 2012 when Alex finished in 3rd place. So the boat knows where it's going. Koji knows where he's going. He came 2nd in the Velux 5 Oceans race in 2006. It'll be his 3rd time around the world, first time for Japan to be involved in the race. And he has the biggest smile in the fleet, I think. He's been delighted to be here. It's been a joy to be interviewed all week. Everyone's loved him. And he seems to have been very relaxed and have plenty of time for people. And it's quite lovely to see such a different nationality be involved in this race.
And on a real mission to spread the word of sailing to the Far East, to Japan especially. Shiraishi carrying out some traditional Japanese rituals before setting off on his odyssey around the world. And this is important for him, it's important for tradition, but it's also important for sailing fans to have these characters. I mean, there, look, you've got a guy in a kimono and a guy in a stripy scarf and a sailing cap in one shot. They are serious sportsmen. They are going out there to do their best, to survive primarily, and also to win. But they are personalities that sailing fans and sports fans in general can really get to grips with and be entertained by.
I think this is one of the beauties of this race, with the race within the races. It's the human story, and there's such distinct personalities, and they're all there for completely different reasons. You know, Jean-Pierre Dick is out there to try and win. That's what he wants to do. Alex Thompson out there to try and win. They talk about the weather. They talk about the fears of hazards at Finisterre. They talk about the Southern Ocean. You've got others experiencing this adventure that talk of the emotion of the day. And then you have the Irish having a little jig before they depart the dock here, as Ender's team entertain.
What was that about serious sportsmen? Ender Keenan, the Irish skipper, smoking a big fat cigar, playing a drum. He doesn't care. He's here to have a good time.
It's the beginning of your fighting spirit.
Je ne suis pas le français. Sorry. Yeah, this is magic. This is the start of the end of the beginning, and to be here is magic, and I really look forward to it. So the support has been fabulous, and many friends travel from Ireland, which is really lovely. And vive la France, vive l'Ireland. So it's magic. Thank you. Hey, let's go for it.
Ender Keenan, 61 years old, a colourful character on a good, solid boat that's done 2 previous Vendée Globes already. He made his money when the Berlin Wall came down, working on business information systems in Eastern Europe. He's funded many an offshore sailing campaign, including the Green Dragon in the Volvo Ocean Race. But now it's his turn. It's his turn to stand in the limelight, to shine, and to fly the flag for Ireland. As the Japanese boat sets off with a big wave to the fans that have come to see Kojiro Shiraishi.
It's surreal. What happens is we leave all this construction and we get into very serious.
So Ender explaining what's going to happen next. As Jean-Pierre Dick on the right-hand side waves to the crowd. Do you think Ender's actually going to set off?
I think
Do you think he's
to
going to be on the boat when it goes?
That's right. I was looking at that. He's like on the dock. I was like, no, get on your boat, because they're very strict at throwing the lines off on their 4-minute intervals. Ender's boat is actually the boat that was for Mike Golding. It was Ekever in 2008 as a new boat, and then Gemessa with Mike Golding again in 2012. So I don't think Mike Golding has ever danced an Irish jig on his boat. So I think he's here watching this. I'm sure he's probably spoken to Ender. And what Ender does want to do, he's been responsible for bringing a lot of sailing to Ireland. He brought the Volvo Ocean Race stopover into Galway. As you say, he's had the Green Dragon operation happening, and I think he's really hoping to leave a legacy for young Irish sailors to get into offshore sailing. And 2 of his shore team there are actually young Figaro sailors from Ireland that are hoping and dreaming in the future to be in his position in the Vendée Globe. So maybe they'll be looking to sell this boat once Ender brings it back safely eventually around the world. He's going to have a huge Irish party all the way around the world, I'm sure. He actually redesigned some areas of his boat, and he has taken a bit of Ireland with him. Down below there's a bar scene from Dublin of people drinking and having fun. He's got a beautiful Irish woodland on the bulkhead leading forwards to the sail locker. And just in the cockpit, when you close the hatch, it's got a seaside scene of people playing on the beach. So he really has taken the Irish spirit with him and got some company on board, even though it's just in picture form.
And there's a very funny sign on his boat as well, which I can't say on TV. There's some strong language in it, but it refers to the Snot Green Sea, and I think it's a quote from James Joyce. But I'll tweet that later on, so you can see it on Twitter. Just go and search for Alec Wilkinson, and you'll find I've tweeted that side off the Irish boat. But definitely a character to keep an eye on as he sails around the world.
Jean Le Cam playing the crowd there as he leaves the channel. 4 times departing on this Vendée Globe. He hasn't always finished the race, but when he has, it's been in pretty good positions. His boat has won the race before, so the combination could be quite a fierce rival for the rest of the fleet. What's really nice is this time it was quite a last-minute campaign for him, and he's got a lot of his family working on the campaign. His wife is doing the communications, he's had his daughters involved in the logistics, and they've never all worked together. So when he first did the Vendée Globe, she probably wasn't even around, and now here she is working on his campaign. So it's a really nice sharing of the journey for his family.
It is a race that takes over your life as a sailor and competitor, isn't it? Ender still having his party, smoking his fat cigar, and rightly so. I wonder if he's got a stash of them to keep him going around the world.
Well, let's hope they're all in waterproof containers, because I think the realization's soon going to hit him of what's involved and what he's going to face. And we're talking probably Monday off Finisterre in potentially 35 knots of wind. So he needs to make sure he's got some waterproof layers in.
Let's listen to the oldest competitor in the race ever, Rich Wilson, 66 years old, about to speak to our reporter. And we'll go back to him and try and get a word from the American in a little while. But going back to Ender and smoking a cigar, the fact is, I mean, we're having a joke and a laugh, and as I said, there are lots of different characters taking part in this race. But the fact is that they are professional sportsmen, and they have been working very hard to get fit. Fitness is important, because you need to start at the top of your game, because that fitness drops by each day that goes by.
It does. Once you start, there's nothing you can do about it, so you need to be in the best position possible. And what you find is your percentage body fat goes down, your arm strength gets bigger, you're more defined just because of all the physical hard work, but your legs disappear because you don't walk any further than 60 feet. If you do, you get wet. And to go for a walk along the beach when you get back is quite a tiring thing to do. So it takes a little bit of time to recover. But yeah,
and the food isn't great either, is it?
Well, it's got better. It is freeze-dried food. They take some fresh food for the first few days, and then there'd be some treats stored for Christmas and New Year and any birthdays. But generally, it's all freeze-dried food for these guys, and it has got better. But after 3 months of eating the same kind of thing, you just get bored of it. It's the texture that you get bored of more than anything.
I'm sure you've been asked this many times. What's the first thing you'd like to eat when you get back?
Well, a funny thing was, as you arrive in, they ask you for your arrival meal that you'd like, and the French are red wine and cheese and oysters and steak and all this beautiful food. And I genuinely wanted a Diet Coke and a ham and mushroom pizza. And given that the sponsor of the race is Sodibo, they were more than delighted to give me a wonderful Sodibo pizza. And I actually went for a tour of the factory and took a good supply of Sodibo pizzas. So I'm definitely a Diet Coke and pizza girl when I get in.
And these guys have their preferred items, don't they, that they always pack in their bags. But I think we're going to hear from our next skipper first.
Morgan.
Ouais, c'est sûr que c'est un moment pas évident, c'est un moment positif, mais en tout cas qui m'amène beaucoup de larmes ce matin, donc c'est quand même assez particulier. Après, je pense que c'est aussi un moyen de peut-être de gérer la transition au mieux assez rapidement, de couper un petit peu avec le milieu des hommes. Et voilà, donc maintenant j'attends un peu avec impatience le moment de la compétition, le départ, pour être focalisé sur autre chose que sur les émotions, parce que c'est difficile à combiner avec le sportif, donc vivement que les minutes passent.
A very emotional morning, lots of tears, he said, and just moving to see the best of humankind as he prepares to set off around the world. Morgan Lagravière on board Safran.
I think that's really powerful. So you saw earlier that Rich Wilson, who's going to leave just ahead of Morgan there, didn't really have anything to say. He's heads in the game. He gets quite stressed at this time. Morgan there, first time entry, massive opportunity, got selected to be the Safran skipper, worked with the previous Safran skipper Marc Guillermo before moving across to work with Roland Jourdan and his team. So he's worked with two really good skippers, and he's overcome by the emotion of the day.
29 years old, Morgan Lagravière, often compared to the winner of the last edition, François Gabard, which is quite something to carry on your shoulders, because Gabard has really become a sporting hero in France since his exploits in the last Vendée Globe, and since then has broken records left, right and centre. So how much pressure is on Lagravière? Maybe that's why we're seeing so many tears and why he's so emotional this morning.
I reckon a little bit he's feeling that pressure, but also it is just overwhelming. He's suddenly, for the first time, saying goodbye to his loved ones, friends and family to sail off around the world that he doesn't even know if he can get round. He's got new technology, he doesn't know if that can get round, and a huge amount of pressure to deliver for a sponsor and for his team.
We've talked about a lot of these guys being trained in business and then going into offshore sailing and then working their way up to this position. But there are others like Lagravière who started in dinghies, an Olympic sailing series, and worked their way up through the different sizes of boats before finally reaching the Imoca 60 that he will be racing around the globe. That was Nandor Farr waving goodbye to the crowds as Lagravière tries to regain his composure and focus on the race ahead.
Probably having some really wise words there from Roland Jourdan, who's done this several times himself, so he's probably a lot more relaxed on this day, while Ender's still doing his jig.
So we were talking about you know, the sort of physical training that is involved, possibly not for Ender, but for certainly most of the other skippers. They work really hard at getting fit. But why is that important when you're sitting down all day? As you said, you lose the use of your legs virtually.
Well, you do, but you're constantly needing to change sails, you're constantly needing to trim. The motion of the boat takes its toll on you as well. The cold will eat away at any reserves you have. And it really is trying to stay in peak physical fitness so that your wellness and well-being is good as well. So your psychological and emotional well-being allows you to perform at 100%. You know, everybody reacts differently to different conditions. And just that pressure of pushing at 100% the whole time can take its toll. You've got to maintain that for 24,000 miles. So it is a little bit, you've got difficult decisions, you've got to understand the weather, make some good
deuxième
calls.
départ de Vendée Globe, c'est quoi le sentiment qui prédomine là?
Beaucoup plus de sérénité qu'il y a 4 ans, avec un bateau qui est prêt, une équipe qui a fait un boulot incroyable et un peu plus de stress aussi parce que je sais pas, au fond de moi j'ai la sensation que ça va durer vraiment cette fois-ci 3 mois, et donc c'est le début d'un très long voyage et d'une course très dure. Dans laquelle j'ai une grande ambition qui est d'être du bon côté de la statistique et puis d'essayer d'être dans la meilleure partie du classement.
Les prévisions météo annoncées, là, c'est de nature à apaiser un peu la flotte.
Ouais, tout à fait. C'est excellent de partir dans des conditions comme ça. On est tous habitués à partir du Havre, de Saint-Malo, même de Vendée avec du pré, des dépressions à tourner et tout, alors que là, on va partir quasiment tout droit sur le Cap Finistère avec un vent qu'on aime tous au travers. Donc c'est bien pour rentrer dans la course. Ça va éviter les accidents, enfin une partie des accidents de début de course, donc c'est bien.
So he's looking forward to a good start to the race. The weather conditions means it's a straight line down to Cap Finisterre off the Spanish coast, which is interesting because not far from Burton's mind will be his last attempt at the Vendée Globe. He didn't finish, he crashed into a trawler off Portugal, and that is an incident that has happened on numerous occasions to Vendée Globe boats. How does it happen?
Well, it's hard. You have to rest at some points, and you try and choose that rest at a time where you don't need to do a sail change and you don't have any hazards. But not all boats are on AIS that show up on your computer, so that they don't all have an alarm. So fishing boats randomly appear on the horizon. You have to keep a lookout. And sometimes if it's in the lee of your sails and you don't get to see it in time, it's too late to take avoiding action, and then you get caught out. And we've seen that several times, as you say, in the past. It's very different. You see Eric Bellion here leaving, looking quite relaxed, and then that previous image of Morgan Le Gravier just overcome with the pain and the emotion that this day actually takes on some of the sailors.
I'm actually getting quite concerned for him because he looks exhausted already, emotionally drained. It's almost as if we're watching him arriving back after 3 months away, and I just wonder how he's going to get that energy back, because there's not a lot of sleeping or free time on board these boats.
No, but what you've got is you've got Roland Jourdain, an incredibly experienced sailor with him. He's done this before. They've got time now. He's going to be so emotional leaving the channel, and then he's got a couple of hours to get his head together, and actually then he'll switch on to race mode. The guy comes from a dinghy sailing background. He comes from short-handed sailing now, through the Figaro line, and now he's stepping up to the big boys, and by start line he'll have a game face on and he'll be off with a job to do. And I think the realization of leaving loved ones behind won't hit him until a couple of days and he does that first telephone call or sends that first email, and he'll be like remembering those people that he's left behind, and then that's incentive to sail faster and get home quicker.
We're seeing some stunning images of Les Sables d'Olonne from our helicopter shots. The town is intrinsically linked to the ocean. It used to be one of the largest fishing ports in France back in the 17th century, and it's been home of this great race, the Vendée Globe, since its very first edition in 1989. Here's Romain Attanasio.
Le moment tant redouté est arrivé. Depuis ce matin, c'est calme. Il y a pas... Tout est calme sur le village, il n'y a pas trop de monde sur le ponton, tout le monde parle, personne parle trop fort et tout, mais bon là, ça y est, on fait le chenal, et là franchement c'est ce qui je redoute le plus depuis que j'ai lancé ce projet.
Une appréhension?
Bah oui, tant de monde, ouais, et puis ça y est, c'est parti, on quitte le ponton. Dans quelques minutes on navigue enfin, et puis vivement ce soir qu'on soit tout seul. C'est bon?
So Romain Attanasio there, actually stepping on the other side. He's normally the person on the pontoon while his partner Sam Davis leaves. And it's role reversal for this race. She's going to be waving him off, saying goodbye as he fulfills his dream on one of the oldest boats that's in the fleet, from 1998. It was Catherine Chabot's boat in Whirlpool, and actually they did a naming ceremony and a blessing for Romain, and she became the godmother of the boat. So it's quite nice that from its first, there she is there talking to him, from the first kind of time the boat sailed in this race, it's now back and she's still involved, and you know, there's a lot of love for this boat. It's done a lot of additions to this race. Previous, in 2012, it was with Tanguy de la Motte, another competitor in this race as Initiative Kerr. So Romain has a lot of confidence in the boat.
Yeah, 3 Vendées that boat's done, 2 other round the world races. So it's been around the world as many times as you have, Dee. And I suppose it's no surprise then that Attanasio's aim is just to finish, given the age of his boat.
Yeah, I mean, he's very realistic, he's very calm about things, and he knows where his boat should be placed and where he should be placed. So he knows who he wants to be in front of, and he knows who his battle's going to be between. But he didn't ever say it on an interview out loud, so he'll know if he's fulfilled his dream, and he'll be frustrated if he makes strategical or tactical mistakes. And there's Ruben, he's very practiced at saying goodbye to Mum, but is now practicing having to say goodbye to Dad. Sam's going to have her hands full when he realises that Daddy's gone sailing and isn't coming back, I think.
Sam Davis, who competed in the last Volvo Ocean race, competed in the previous one to that against you.
Yeah, so she did the Vendée Globe in 2008 and 2012. Sadly didn't finish in 2012, but went on to skipper the female team SEA in the Volvo Ocean race, where we sailed together. We've sailed several times together and as competitors, and we hope there's going to be plenty more opportunities in the future for that as well.
So 21 of the 29 boats have now docked out. Next will be Arnaud Boissière. But La Gravière, so emotional, still standing, crying as he waves goodbye. And Shiraishi looking to the stars and the sun and wondering what lies ahead for him. Although he does have plenty of experience, I imagine he's got a fairly good idea. The spirit of Yuko, named after the legendary Japanese sailor and mentor to Shiraishi, Yuko Tada, who did so much for sailing in Japan. A glorious day, the sun's still shining as it has been for weeks, and everyone I've met, all the French colleagues working here who've come from all over France to work on this project have just been commenting really on the weather. They weren't expecting this sort of sunshine, and have been saying that we're very lucky indeed. Blue skies and sunshine, very unlike many other starts to the Vendée.
Kilcullen Voyager there with Ender still having an Irish jig as he leaves the channel.
Now we did a podcast a week or so ago, but let's hear from Alain first.
Incroyablement, non pas du tout, non. J'ai l'air détendu, mais je suis bien stressé, je suis détendu, je fais détendu. Je rigole avec les copains qui passent, tout ça, mais je réalise quelque chose qui nous attend devant, et puis surtout je réalise le privilège que j'ai de partir sur un troisième Vendée Globe, donc j'ai le sourire mais crispé quand même.
On a l'impression que vous n'avez été jamais aussi bien préparé.
Je sais pas, je sais pas trop me dire ça parce qu'après s'il m'arrive quelque chose, voilà, mais j'ai essayé de faire taire les rumeurs comme quoi j'étais trop serein, donc voilà, donc le bateau est prêt, j'ai une super équipe, on n'est pas nombreux, mais il y a une super équipe, j'ai des super partenaires, il y a une super émulation autour du projet, je suis plus que ravi d'être là, c'est incroyable.
Vous êtes étonné de voir cette ferveur, cette popularité sur les pontons?
Ouais, c'est génial. Moi, je suis arrivé par le chenalteur, par la capitainerie. Il y a beaucoup de monde, les gens m'ont reconnu, m'ont déjà applaudi. C'est génial pour nous, ça nous encourage, c'est génial pour les partenaires. Parce qu'ils se disent, ben voilà, si on met de l'argent, si on est sponsor, ça sert à quelque chose. Et c'est vraiment impressionnant. Puis là, on a un temps merveilleux. Donc c'est génial, il y a tout pour bien faire. Donc maintenant, il n'y a plus qu'à.
Petit sentiment de délivrance aussi, là, le fait de quitter le ponton?
La délivrance, c'était déjà ce matin quand j'ai quitté mon petit. La délivrance, c'est là qu'on va larguer les amarres. Et la troisième délivrance, c'est quand à 13h02, on sera parti en course. Pour le moment, il y a encore le stress, larguer les amarres, le chenal et tout ça. Et là, ça va être à nous dans pas longtemps en plus. Donc c'est, voilà, chargé d'émotions.
Merci Arnaud.
À bientôt, dans 3 mois, un peu moins.
Arnaud Boissière, he says he's feeling calm, he's serene, he's got a great team, he's got a good boat, he's just looking forward to getting out there and doing his stuff and getting, he described it as the stress of the canal, getting it over and done with so he can focus on his race. He's heading out for the 3rd time in the Vendée Globe at the age of 44, so he started young. He's a local lad and he's one of the skippers that is a public favourite, really. There's always a glint in his eyes, got jokes ready and willing whenever he meets his fans, and they have been meeting him in their droves over the last few days, walking down the pontoon to get his autograph and say a few words. He's managed 7th and 8th in his previous 2 Vendées. Is he likely to better that?
I don't know, it's very difficult. His boat is actually Verbac 2 from 2008. His best result actually was 2008 when he was sailing. He finished just behind me, and we shared a lot of jokes in the Southern Ocean. He would teach me a French phrase du jour each day, and some of them were unrepeatable, sadly, but no surprise with Callie, as he's known. But he's a lovely guy, does lots for the region, and I think they really do support him. All these, he's l'ami Caline, and he's got these little squares that are around, and they've really adopted him. Rich Wilson here, the oldest competitor in the race, leaving on Great American Fork. His aim is to beat his time of 121 days that he did in 2008. He's got the previous boat was Temenos, sailed by Dominic Voave, and he's actually got the same shore team that I had in 2008, so he's in good hands.
It all goes round and round, doesn't it, in the Vendée? A former professor at Boston Met. His passion is educating youngsters, he says, and spreading the word about his beloved sport to as many people as possible. And he is a serious competitor. He's out there to absolutely do his best. Let's hear from Stéphane Le Direction.
Et émotionnellement, c'est fort d'être sur ce ponton, d'attendre. Et il va être temps de larguer les amarres.
Un moment difficile que le moment du départ?
Le moment du départ sur la ligne, oui, c'est un moment difficile parce qu'il y a toujours des risques de collision et autres qui sont des moments un peu anxiogènes. Puis un autre moment très fort, pas difficile, mais qu'il va falloir gérer, c'est l'émotion de la remontée du chenal. C'est un rêve d'enfant pour moi, ce Vendée, donc ça va être fort, c'est déjà fort.
It's been a dream since he was a kid to take part in this race. He's one of our 14 rookies, is Le Direction, sailing La Compagnie du Lit. His aim to finish in under 90 days and be the first sailor to get this boat around the world.
Yeah, his boat was previously Hugo Boss in 2008, where it didn't finish. It was Energia with Gutek, a Polish skipper, in 2012, where it sadly didn't finish. So if he can deliver it around the world, he's done a pretty good job. I was a bit worried there where he was saying that there was a risk of collision with 29 boats on the start line. If they're racing that hard with 24,000 miles to go, I think we could have some problems. So I think he'll find that the line is absolutely fine.
I think it's probably one of the more sedate starts to any sailing race anywhere, and rightly so. They've got to protect their boats, and it's not about crossing the start line first, it's about getting to the finish line. Glorious sight as the sun shimmers off the Atlantic Ocean, off the western coast of France.
I have to say, I've been involved in this race since 2000, and in the previous editions we've never had weather as good as this. It's been absolutely glorious all week. It's glorious sunshine today, very, very bitterly cold with a northerly wind, and with a forecast that is just a gift for these skippers. The reason they're more relaxed than normal is because they're not having to battle up wind, they're not having to go through a big front or weather system. They literally can sail a straight line that's fast and furious in the right direction. It's probably one of the best starts they've had for a very long time.
15,000 people live at Les Sables d'Olonne. We've got 350,000 on the dockside, along the beaches, as the town, the village, the town looks glorious in the sunshine. And the boats, you can see them now making their way towards us, towards the camera, as they head towards the start line. So
interesting, the number of spectator boats that are out there already. The rest of the spectator fleet are actually still in the harbour and aren't allowed to leave until all the competitors have left the dock. There are 125 boats that have accreditation to be on the water, plus there will be others that are out there anyway. So that is a huge amount, a huge volume of boats and people on the water, just sending these skippers on their way. It's phenomenal.
The organisers have done their best to publicise the rules and regulations of where these spectator boats can go and where they can't go, so everyone in theory should know about it. And I know they've been transmitting on VHF radio information and instructions to all the boats that are out there, and there is obviously a sizable exclusion zone to keep them away from the race boats. There would be nothing worse than ending somebody's Vendée Globe campaign with a crash before they've even started.
For sure, and there's a whole fleet of ribs that are going to cordon off the start area and then a funnel as the boats leave, as they sail off over the horizon, just to keep any stray spectator boats clear on where they're not allowed to go.
Now the boats are setting off now at this time of the morning because of the tides.
So Peter, what is your feeling
hear from
about
Dutchman
this
Peter
strange
Hirima?
moment?
It's a good feeling. We've been ready in time, and we've been working hard on the boat, looking forward to it. It's time to go. It's getting cold in Europe, and in 2 or 3 days the winter will come, so we say goodbye to you. Enjoy the winter. We're going south.
What is your feeling about the first day of racing, first week?
No, I'm very happy that the weather is what it is. It will be, for Vendée, it will be a nice, easy start. Down the coast of Portugal could be a bit more difficult, but all fine.
Confident?
Yes.
Thank you. Good win.
He may be confident, but the Dutchman is facing a huge personal challenge, having made a name for himself in crude classes like the Dragon and the RC44. He's got very little experience in solo racing. He's got a great boat though.
Brand new foiling design. It was actually built for another sailor, but the money didn't come through, and Peter was in a position to buy that boat from him. As you say, it's been a learning curve for him to learn how to sail the boat single-handed. But he comes from, you know, good sailing. He's done a lot of Dragon sailing, so he can trim all the sails. He's campaigned an RC44, so he knew what to put in place. He's actually cruised around the world with his family before, but this is his first venture into doing this alone, and his whole point is to cross that finish line, to be the first ever Dutchman to do the Vendée Globe and sail single-handed non-stop around the world. He's got a foiling boat because he loves technology and he has the finances to be able to get the best. He's actually had several offers for his boat already. He's probably not going to be sailing it at 100% like the other foiling boats. He's made some different decisions with the sail plan, but he's sailing it to make sure he finishes. So there's a very different philosophy to his sailing and planning.
As a successful businessman, I'm sure he's gone into it looking at not necessarily how to make a profit, but how not to spend too much. I mean, if he's invested in this boat, he must know that he can sell it on.
Definitely. I mean, he's not a silly man at all, and he knows it's going to be in pretty good shape when he gets back probably as well. So as long as he doesn't do anything silly, he's going to sail the boat very differently to many of the other guys sailing out there, and he just needs to keep his own race in mind to make sure he's fulfilled his dream. I think coming from the RC44, he's naturally going to have a bit of a competitive edge, or want to, and it's about reining that in and actually sailing his race that's a marathon to the finish line, not just an all-or-nothing affair.
Daily life on board, you talk about it being a marathon. How would you describe it? Is it all grueling? Is there ever any time where you can actually stop and enjoy yourself?
Well, I actually love it. So, yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask there, but the good times always outweigh the bad, so you forget how bad or how cold or how wet or how difficult a sail change was.
Okay, so what are the good times? Because we often talk about the difficulties these guys face, but what are the good times?
Well, the minute you cross the start line, you're like, oh, thank God for that. All the pressure's gone. You can actually just concentrate on the job at hand, which is what you've been wanting to do, which is why you signed up for the Vendée Globe. For me, that beautiful sunrises on an uninterrupted horizon, the beautiful sunsets with an uninterrupted horizon is, you know, priceless. You see nature in its natural environment. You have the dolphins playing in your bow wave. You see the splash of a tail of a whale. You have flying fish. You get south, it gets cold, and the albatross come out and soar above the waves. You get big rolling waves that you surf down, and the boat accelerates, and just, that's what it's about. That's what you signed up for. You think, wow, how do I slow the boat down? And then you think, no, this is amazing. This is what it's about. And you know, you roll that all into one, and that's why you keep going back.
Il y a ce superbe projet.
C'est Tanguy de la Motte.
Compétition.
Oui, il y a encore le chenal entre les deux et j'ai vraiment hâte d'en profiter. Il fait super beau, donc c'est vraiment extra comme début de course. Et voilà, il y a encore le chenal avant, on va rentrer dans sa bulle, se concentrer, mais vraiment profiter du public qui est là et ensuite l'aventure commencera.
Après, il y a le départ.
Bien sûr, ouais, le départ va venir vite, mais on a le temps de Même si je sors dans les derniers, on a du temps à se préparer pour faire ça bien. Les conditions sont super maniables, donc c'est extra.
Well, we're hearing the interviews in their mother tongue, and rightly so, but Tanguy de la Motte could have done that in fluent English as well. He spent a long time studying boat design at Southampton University on the south coast of England, but is, as many of these guys are, now based in this part of France. What are his chances on his second Vendée Globe?
Well, I mean, I think he's got the heartstrings out of this whole fleet. You may have your favourites for the race, but everybody should love his project. Initiative Cœur is a charity where just one like on Facebook, so if anybody listening, go onto Facebook and like Initiative Cœur. It pays €1 and the money accumulates, and what they do is they give life-saving operations to children that need heart operations. And just in the race village, 3 weeks of the race village alone, they've managed to save 3 children by giving them heart operations through this process. So if by the time we can get to the start line, we can save another child's life, that would be amazing. And his whole objective is to have this following and make a difference to children's lives. It's his second entry. His boat is PRB that won, that did the 2008 race, sadly got dismasted after rescuing John Le Cam. It was a Kina Verandas in 2012 where it finished 8th. And it's a faster new generation boat compared to his last edition race, so he'll be faster and more competitive. But it's, again, he knows where he sits in the fleet and who he should be racing with, and so he's got his own race within a race, but I think he's looking to push that little bit more and do a good job. And it's a great story because he was actually shore crew for Ellen MacArthur in Kingfisher back originally, and now here he is as a competitor for the second time.
Louis Burton aboard his bright yellow Bureau Valet boat, saying goodbye to the crowds.
Arnaud Boissier there, local boy, getting the good shout and cheers from the crowd there as well.
And again, a glorious shot of this part of France. We were watching Ender on the Irish boat, having a little Irish jig and celebrating, and he'll feel quite at home in this part of the world because there is culturally there's a bit of quite a close connection with neighbouring Brittany, and certainly their music and their folk songs are very Celtic in sound.
And there's Romain on Famille Mairie at Tamine du Lit. And it's a combination of sponsors that have come together, and many of them do some honey with some herbs and stuff in, so he's got some good stuff to take with him. He's had the terrible Vendée cough, which a lot of the skippers get over the 3 weeks while they're here. A little sniffle here and there, and they all try and stay as healthy as they can before they leave.
Now that's an interesting point, because when you're out there on your own for 3 months, do you get sick? Because you can't pick up any viruses. You can answer that after we've heard from our next skipper.
Ouais, bah, ça va être la folie tout à l'heure, sûrement dans quelques minutes dans le chenal. Puis voilà, aujourd'hui on a la chance cette année d'avoir une belle météo d'abord ce matin au départ, et puis pour les premières heures de course, donc voilà, avec l'expérience ça permet de partir plus sereinement et avec la boule un peu moins serrée dans le ventre.
Avec vous, il n'y a pas de mystère, on sait pourquoi vous y allez.
Bah, c'est l'objectif, ouais, c'est sûr, hein, ça j'ai bien annoncé depuis quelques temps, donc maintenant la course commence à 13h02 et voilà, pour l'instant tout le monde est à égalité, on verra comment ça va se passer pendant 3 mois.
Et ça va partir vite.
Ça va partir vite, ouais, surtout cette nuit, il va falloir surtout pas traîner en route parce que ça derrière, la porte va peut-être se fermer, donc voilà, il faudra être tout de suite dans le match et on va pas beaucoup dormir les premières journées.
Merci Armel, bon moment.
Merci.
It'll be a quick start to the race. And we'll see how the first few days of that race. And that's Francois Gabard, did I see? Yeah, the winner of the last Vendée Globe, wishing Armel Leclerc the very best of luck on his 3rd attempt at the Vendée Globe. 2 races under his belt already, 2 second places. Can the Jackal, as he's known, go one better in 2016-2017?
Well, he does start here as the race favourite. If a foiling boat is going to win, Armel Leclerc with Banque Populaire has had the most preparation, the best preparation. He's got the best pedigree. He is the man to do it, but actually he's the one that said he fears Alex Thompson because he's the unknown. All the foiling boats train together, they know their strengths and weaknesses, and it's just Hugo Boss that's been out there on their own, so that's the unknown for Armel. He's the only skipper to have completed the Vendée Globe course in less than 80 days. That was in the last edition where he finished 3 hours behind Francois Gabard, and he's out there to win for sure. And the interesting thing is he actually finishes this race and steps onto a 100-foot Ultime trimaran for Banque Populaire. So he already knows where he's going. And interestingly enough, his boat that he's about to sail in is going to change hands, and Louis Burton will be the proud owner of Armel's boat once this race is finished.
That's a bit of breaking news from the dock, that is.
That's my gossip for the dock for this morning, that Louis Burton will complete in Bureau Valet and then be the proud owner of Banque Populaire once Armel has finished the Vendée Globe. Will he win? Always the bridesmaid, can he be the bride?
Time will tell. He's so meticulous and attentive to detail and often makes some inspired strategic decisions, Armel Leclerc, which is what's got him those 2 podium finishes so far, but will get him his first place that has eluded him for so long.
So he's got 2nd edition foils in his boat. He's developed the technology, tried and tested, made some changes and modifications. He's 100% confident. He knows he can do it. He's confident in the boat. And if I had to put money on anyone, my money is on Armel. But the big question is, can the foilers do 24,000 miles and complete the circuit and arrive back across the finish line? And that's what a number of the other boats are hoping doesn't happen.
So just going back to our chat about colds and flu and illness, once you've been away for about a week, I'm guessing that's it for illnesses. You know, you can't catch anything out there as far as that's concerned, can you? So
no, it's all you, and the only thing is illness or injury, but it's not colds and flu. You don't pick up any germs, and actually it only hits you probably a week after you come back, where you've seen so many people and everyone's excited to see you.
Bertrand, l'expérience, c'est un gros avantage dans cette course.
4th time entry has to say.
C'est un grand mot, l'expérience. Je pense que je sais pas, l'expérience. On profite de ce départ. Voilà, il y a les amis, la MACSF, tous les collaborateurs, voilà, des gens qu'on aime bien sont là, donc c'est important. Et puis voilà, on profite quoi. L'expérience d'un départ comme ça, on essaye d'être le plus serein possible, le plus tranquille possible, mais bon, forcément, on part quand même pour un tour du monde, hein, on fait pas le tour de la baie, donc voilà, on sait avec l'expérience, justement l'expérience nous dit qu'il peut arriver des choses, voilà, il ne faut pas faire n'importe quoi, il faut ramener le bonhomme et aussi le bateau, donc voilà, il faut faire à son rythme, le rythme d'il y a 4 ans, je le connais, voilà, je peux faire mieux, maintenant, voilà, je veux en profiter au maximum, et puis faire profiter les autres. Merci.
So he thinks he can race a good race and improve on his 9th place, which is his best position out of the 3 races he's competed in. He hasn't finished in 2 of the 3 Vendée Globes that he has competed in, but you know, despite his history in the Vendée, despite all his other sailing successes, what he'll be known for to sailing fans and sports fans generally is the fact that he sewed his tongue back together when he bit it off during a previous Vendée Globe.
Yeah, and he'll never walk away from that. Everyone always associates the tongue story with Bertrand. It is phenomenal what he achieved. But his boat's a good boat. It was Britair in 2008, which was sailed by Armel and finished in 2nd place. and he had that boat for the last race, and here he is out there to do it again. One of the few four-time entries into the Vendée Globe, but let's hope he doesn't bite his tongue in the motion this time.
And of all the skippers heading off, he'll be the most used to the emotions of the departure moment in the Vendée Globe. He's done it many times. He's used to being a really big star in France. And so this is his chance just to say his final goodbyes and head off. You can just tell he's got it together in his head. 56 years old, he's done this many times, he's in control, he's just waiting to get out there and do the business.
Yeah, he's relaxed, and actually at this point when you leave the dock, this is the thank you to your team that got you there, because they've put in all the hours of the hard work of getting the boat ready, getting yourself together, and making sure that everything's come to fruition at the right time. And that's the big thank you to your team. You're like, thank you, now it's my turn to deliver for you guys. So the minute they step off the boat and you cross that start line, then the pressure's on you to deliver back to them. It's kind of, you know, that we got you here, now it's your turn.
3 boats left to dock out before the 29-strong fleet is completed and heads up the channel to the open water.
Jérémy,
the start.
troisième départ.
Jérémy Bayou will be next to dock off.
Ouais, troisième départ et toujours autant d'émotions. Au final, je pense que je t'ai dit il y a quelques jours que ça allait aller, que j'allais pas pleurer et tout. Ben voilà, ça s'est fait. Voilà, c'est pour ça que c'est une course pas comme les autres.
Comment ça va se passer là les premières heures?
Le départ va être plutôt tranquille et puis il y a un golfe de Gascogne assez rapide, vent de travers, donc on va dire plutôt facile, mais il y aura du trafic, donc il va falloir être vraiment vigilant. Et puis après, à mesure qu'on va approcher de l'Espagne, ça va devenir plus technique, le vent va se renforcer, il y aura des changements de voile à faire. Là encore beaucoup de trafic, donc, et puis derrière du vent fort au portant. Donc jusqu'à mardi, ça va être vraiment un peu course solitaire du Figaro sans trop dormir. C'est un début de course, voilà, certes, c'est pas inquiétant parce que c'est pas des énormes conditions, c'est pas la tempête, mais c'est très technique, donc il va falloir bien réveiller.
Ça va être une première semaine rapide aussi, non?
Oui, et puis ça va être rapide. Alors après, tout dépend si on arrive à vraiment bien s'enfiler sous l'anticyclone ou pas. Je pense qu'il faut être devant, donc voilà, c'est toujours pareil, c'est le début de course, trouver ses marques, pas faire de bêtises, pas percuter un pêcheur, un objet flottant, et en même temps arriver à ressortir devant. Voilà, celui qui arrive à faire tout ça, c'est sûr que mercredi, jeudi, il pourra être content de lui.
Votre objectif pour votre troisième Vendée Globe?
L'objectif, c'est de naviguer comme j'ai fait depuis 3 ans. Je pense en trouvant un rythme qui permet de ménager la monture et de finir devant, comme sur la route du Rhum, comme sur la dernière New York Vendée. Voilà, faut que je navigue comme je sais faire, et je sais que j'ai le bateau pour aller au bout, et que si je suis au bout, j'imagine que je serai pas loin des premières places.
Merci Jérémy.
His aim is to sail the race as he has done on the previous 2 occasions he's taken part. He hasn't finished either of those, but that's because of technical problems. So he's happy with his plan. He thinks it'll be a reasonably straightforward start. They just have to be careful not to crash into anything, as a lot of the skippers have said as they head down off the Portuguese and Spanish coasts. But he underlined that this is a race like no other, and he's thoroughly looking forward to it. Jérémy Bayou on Maître Coq setting off very soon and sailing on the boat that was second in the last edition of the race for Armel Leclerc.
Yeah, his boat was Foncia in 2008, which won, having come back to repair and then set off later than everybody else with Michel Desjoyaux. Then it was Banque Populaire last edition with Armel Leclerc coming second by just 3 hours. So a really good boat, and actually, interestingly enough, he's the only non-new boat that's retrofitted some foils, and his foils are different to everybody else's. They've got some downward foil in it, so not just the curvy up bit, but a bit sticking down. And they're slightly smaller than the others, but a really good job of optimizing an older generation boat, but moving it forwards to the foiling. So he's really one to watch, because if it does all come together, he could have the good all-round combination there.
But again, we really don't know how it's going to perform.
No, and as he said, yes, it's a quick forecast, yes, it's quick, but and there's no big scary weather, but it's very technical. They've got to jive down this Portuguese coast in some strong winds with lots of hazards around, the fishing fleet, the buoys, fishing pots and the cargo ships with the traffic separation.
Sébastien, vous avez réussi à être prêt pour le départ?
On est prêt à partir, encore quelques minutes et ça sera le début d'une autre aventure. Il y a eu phase 1 jusqu'à aujourd'hui, maintenant, et puis maintenant on va attaquer la phase 2. Je ne sais pas laquelle des deux sera la plus amusante, la plus intéressante, on verra, je dirais ça à mon retour.
Partez dans de bonnes conditions?
Très très bonnes conditions. L'équipe a fait un travail formidable, le bateau est prêt, j'ai aucune inquiétude sur l'état du bateau. Vraiment, pour moi on ne pouvait pas être mieux. Ça s'est fait dans la douleur bien sûr, mais ça on le savait déjà depuis longtemps. Et voilà, on est là quoi. On est là et quand on dit que prendre le départ du Vendée Globe c'est déjà une victoire, c'est vrai, c'est déjà une victoire. Après on verra si on fait un petit miracle en rentrant dans quelques semaines.
Sebastian Destremo, Techno first face Ocean, giving his final interview before he sets off. And I feel slightly sort of shameful really, because he's a journalist who sat in the commentary box doing the commentary of the departure of the last Vendée Globe 4 years ago, and he sat there and he got so wrapped up in it and he said, do you know, I'd quite fancy doing it next time. Don't we all say that? But he's gone out and done it, which is an incredible story in itself, and his aim is just to finish and not break the boat.
Well, I think it's awesome that he could just have this palatable emotion for the day and then just say, I want some of that, and go and do it. So Alec, no pressure, but you know what's next. It's his first time, obviously, off the Vendée Globe, but it's the 5th time for his boat. So his boat definitely knows where it's going. He just has to stay on board. The boat has previously been Gartmore. Then it was Pindar. It was Toe in the Water with Steve White, the British skipper, in 2008. And then in the last edition, Explorer. It's one of the oldest boats in the fleet, along with Roman Atalasio's Famion Mary Etamine Dubli. 1998, Fino Conch design. And I just think it's fantastic. His story as a journalist, now going sailing, his story's coming back to the website and to the race following should be great. And I think it's, you know, it'll be really fascinating to see somebody that just got wrapped up in the emotion talking about it, now going and doing it and seeing what it's really like.
Yeah.
I think he'll communicate very clearly.
Good for him. And the very best to Sebastian Destremo. 2 more boats to set off. Banque Populaire with Armel Leclerc on board. One of the characters that the crowds have lined up to come and wish well to. Tanguy de la Motte on Initiative Coeur, raising money for a really important, a great charity, helping disadvantaged kids come to France for heart operations. And he's exiting the canal now. That white and green lighthouse, well-known landmark for the start of the Vendée Globe. And as the sound begins to drift away from them and things begin to get a little calmer, this is when they'll sit down, and especially, hopefully, Morgan Legravier, who seemed overwhelmed with emotion. Hopefully, this is now a chance for them to calm down over the next couple of hours whilst they wait for the actual race start.
Yeah, they have time with their team. They need to eat something, they need to drink something, they need to just have a little bit of space to get over the emotion.
4e départ de Vendée Globe.
And here we go.
Toujours la même émotion.
Bah ouais, toujours, hein. C'est sûr que quand on se réveille un matin de départ de Vendée Globe, on se dit bon, ça y est, on y est, c'est pas demain, c'est pas après-demain, c'est là.
Et ouais, c'est une émotion qui est, je pense, qui est toujours intacte parce que ça reste vraiment quelque chose de particulier que de partir comme ça de longs mois en mer, de quitter tout le monde. Puis ça reste aussi l'aboutissement d'un projet. Hein. Je crois que c'est des projets pour lesquels on a beaucoup d'engagement dès le premier jour où on prend la décision de partir sur cette course-là. Donc voilà, c'est l'aboutissement de beaucoup de choses qui s'ajoutent aussi à cette émotion personnelle.
Un ancien vainqueur comme vous, il part avec quelles ambitions?
Il part avec plus on avance, allez, un an avant, on y va pour gagner, puis on se pose pas de questions. Et puis le matin du départ, on est toujours tous un petit peu fébriles et on dirait déjà si on revient au Sable d'Olonne, ce sera une victoire. Et puis après, de toute façon, si jamais on revient au Sable d'Olonne, on sait très bien que le classement sera pas très loin. Et puis si on peut être devant, c'est sûr que ce ne sera que mieux.
Ce qui vous attend et ce qui nous attend là, c'est tout bonnement une course exceptionnelle?
Ouais, c'est une course, c'est une aventure exceptionnelle. Ça va commencer sur le temps de la course et puis après les faits de tous les jours vont nous rappeler rapidement que c'est aussi une aventure et que voilà, c'est pas simple de faire le tour du monde en solitaire, sans escale et sans assistance.
Merci Vincent, bon vent.
Merci.
Great summary there from Vincent Rieu. It's a race and it's a unique adventure, and it is not easy to sail around the world non-stop solo without assistance. And he is actually the only previous winner to be in this year's lineup. He won in 2004 with PRB, so he's a race favourite in as far as if the foiling boats don't perform. He's considered the fastest all-round boat. He trains in Port La Forêt with the Pole Finisterre sailing group, where about 10 of the skippers train. And the foilers all say that he's the fastest all-rounder, but the foilers have such an advantage on certain angles of sail. So if the foilers don't make it round, I'm afraid he is the race favourite if a foiler is not going to make it round the world.
And he will be the last skipper to leave the dock and head off into the sea, the open sea, for the start of the race in a couple of hours' time. Vincent Rieu, known as the Swiss Army knife of sailing, just because he's such an all-rounder.
And he's probably seen and done most things now. He was infamous in 2008 when he rescued Jean Le Cam from his capsized boat, and then sadly lost his rig, and they both retired into Ushuaia. He's full-time entry. He's very relaxed. He knows exactly what he's got to do. He knows his boat. It was launched in 2010 and he's had it the whole time. He did try retrofitting some foils on and moving forwards, and decided against that, made the decision to take the foils out. But he's confident of the limitations of his boat and how to keep his boat racing at 100%.
Now, we were talking on the Sailing Uncovered podcast a few weeks ago about your 3 must-haves when you pack to go on board and head off around the world. Remind us what they were?
So I was very sensible, and I said a Vincent Rieu, so a multi-tool. So I have a Leatherman in my pocket all the time. My second one was Haribo Sweets. Yep. And my final one was Earl Grey tea bags.
Which is a very British thing. And by the way, I got you some chewy sweets here in the bag, which we can have later. The rustling, though, annoys the listeners and the viewers at home, so we won't get into that now. But the reason I mentioned that is because have you picked up any strange foibles, strange things that these guys pack to take off around the world for 3 months?
Well, it's really interesting because, you know, you'd think that as a British skipper, Alex would follow the tea theme. And he doesn't at all. He's a mayonnaise fan, and he doesn't actually sail offshore without mayonnaise. And he has 7 jars, I've been told, that to keep him going around the world.
I'm surprised because they clash with the black boat. I was expecting something that, you know, that would match, because everything on that boat matches.
Yeah, that's his little kind of, you know, weakness here. And then the most surprising thing was Armand Leclerc, she'd think, where weight was absolutely critical, someone who's highly competitive and expected to win. His little secret is he carries a soda stream with him. Now, really? I thought they were joking, but he commented that drinking plain water, which is made from the water maker, so taken from the sea, gets a little bit boring after a while. So I'm not sure what flavours he carries or whether he just goes for bubbles, but a soda stream is on board Banque Populaire. PRB also has a massive following here in Les Sables d'Olonne. It's a local company, manufactures concrete
Sébastien,
bricks
rassurez-nous, il n'y a
and
pas de
cinder
souci
blocks.
sur le départ.
Aucun souci. On est prêt à partir, c'est qu'une question de minutes.
Bon, ce départ, cette compétition, vous l'attendiez?
Bah, comme tout le monde, hein, ça fait 2 ans que tout le Gitana Team travaille voilà, d'arrache-pied, les week-ends, les jours, et voilà, on est là, donc maintenant c'est à moi de continuer le boulot.
Il n'y a pas d'émotion?
Si, il y en a, mais elle sortira plus tard.
Now that's very interesting because that's Sebastian Josse, who doesn't seem very happy. He didn't have much to say in that interview. He's saying he is emotional, but that was about it. So he was supposed to leave 6th from the dock. He's actually leaving last, which is why he's popped up, which was a bit of a surprise. Do you think he's got problems on board?
I doubt it. I think there was probably something, probably media related or sponsor related, that kept him on the dock. The team is so well tuned, the boat is so well prepared. It's a brand new foiling boat, Edmund de Rothschild. It's Seb's 3rd entry into the Vendée Globe. He got a 5th place finish in 2004 and sadly retired in 2008 on BT with rudder damage. He's skippered a Volvo Ocean race, he's sailed a Jules Verne trophy, he's got loads of experience, and so his preparation will be pretty good, that I doubt that they would have had a technical issue to delay them, so I'm expecting that the delay was probably through outside circumstances beyond their control.
Part of the skipper's briefing that they had yesterday was a detailed explanation of the docking out process, and each boat is given around 4 minutes in which to go through that process, and if you're not ready, you miss your slot and you go to the back of the fleet, and that seems to be what's happened to Sebastian Josse on Edmund de Rothschild.
Yeah, and the reason that this is so restricted is because the tidal range in the channel is very restricted. These boats draw 4.5 meters, and they need to be able to get out safely. It's flat water, so the limits can be extended, but they literally send the first boat out as soon as they can get out the channel, hoping to get them all through so that the last boat's still floating as it gets out the channel as well. So I'm guessing Seb not having much to say there, or Jojo as he's known to the sailing community, is probably just because he was a bit frustrated because it hasn't gone to plan. He didn't leave when he should have left, and you know, you hate that inconvenience because you've got in your head what's going to happen for the day. Oh, massive crowds waving. They can see them on themselves on the big screen as the camera finds them.
Flying the red and white flags of the Vendée region of Western France. You mentioned the big screens. There's a huge race village with lots to do for the kids, for the fans. There are museums that they can visit. There really is a huge effort put into organising entertainment for the fans, for them to look at and enjoy. But I wonder if Sebastian Josse, despite saying that he will set off very soon, actually does have a problem. You'd expect a bit more activity on board if he was about to set off there.
Yeah, it's a worry, especially at this stage, because he's normally really relaxed and smiley. He, as I said, he knows what he's going into, and he wants to go out and perform, and he's probably frustrated. Very well, he looks very frustrated, so I have no doubt he's frustrated. But I hope whatever is delaying him, he can put to the back of his mind and get the boat out and then focus on the job ahead, which is sailing around the world.
And when you're on a 3-month voyage, there isn't really a rush to get across the start line, but psychologically, you really want to be there with the rest of the fleet to start the race. You don't want to be starting miles behind on a 40,000 kilometre race.
But just so everyone's reassured, the start line actually stays open for 10 days. That allowing any issues that may happen on the first couple of days, you can come back to port, fix them with your team, and then cross the start line again, so long as you cross that start line within that 10-day window. And here we see Edmund de Rothschild is now leaving the dock, and he will get a lot of cheers as he goes out, because the sailors know him. He's a successful French sailor that's got a vast experience, and he probably just wants to get on with sailing around the world now.
And not just 2 Vendées under his belt, he also skippered ABN AMRO 2 in that ill-fated Volvo Ocean race, 2005, 2006. He also loves trimarans and cats, so a real all-rounder as a sailor, and extremely well known to the fans of sailing in France. So that's it. We have 29 skippers and 29 boats now heading up the canal towards the start line for the start, which will be just a couple of minutes after 1 p.m. local time. So that's in 2 hours and 10 minutes from now. Vincent Rioux, one of the masters of this race, and as you said, Dee, he's got to be one of the favourites if the winner is non-foiling.
For sure, and a local hero, local sponsor. All the PRB support have been down for the last 3 weeks, visiting the boat and enjoying the hospitality of the race village. And if you wonder what all the boats are going to do for a couple of hours, they're going to go out there, they're going to check the weather, they're going to check the wind's doing what they think it's going to be doing, so it's relatively light in the bay. We're going to see that wind increase as they head out the Bay of Biscay until the acceleration zone off Finisterre, which is the corner of Spain. They're going to be deciding on what sail plan to have. And the argument is if you start with big sails, you know the wind's going to increase as you head out. That just makes a lot of work for all the sailors. So should you start a little bit smaller in your sail plan and just wait for the acceleration and you'll have the right sails later on. You want to make life easy for the sailors, not kill them in the first few hours. You know you're going to have some jibes coming up. They're going to be at Finisterre Monday morning. So they're going to have quite a technical Monday with very little sleep close to the shore, close to the shipping lanes. There's a penalty in place if any of them go into the traffic separation scheme, so they're going to have to be very careful of their decisions. The current routing has the foiling boats going offshore of the traffic separation scheme at Finisterre. But funnily enough, Alex Thompson on Hugo Boss with his different shaped foils has obviously different polars, and his routing takes him inside the traffic separation scheme at Finisterre, which will put him in the peak of the acceleration patch. So it'd be interesting to see where they actually head. Vincent savouring the moment on his own phone so he can remember the memory of the send-off he got when he's in a dark time in the Southern Ocean.
And what he'll probably do is put that out on social media, because yes, this is an unassisted race and they are completely on their own, but in this day and age, communication is very important indeed. And what sort of communications do they have on board?
So there are satellite communications that pretty much allow them internet access. They've got satellite phone that allows people to phone and then to phone out. They've got backup systems, so they're asked to send video, they're asked to send images, they're asked to send blogs, they'll be able to do live links, video conferencing. So you could be at an event, or the sponsor could be at a conference, and they could link to the boat and have a chat with their sailor in the Southern Ocean with the boardroom or the conference. And technology is that good that you can actually be on board with these sailors at the critical times. They'll be sending video back, they'll be sending images back. So if you want to follow all the action and what's going on, there'll be radio vacations where people will interview the skippers, and it'll be in French and in English, and you'll see all the images and the pictures on the website, so you can follow this race as it happens over the next 3 months. And it might make your work productivity slightly lower, but it'll inspire you.
Yeah, Rich Wilson, the oldest guy in the race, the 66-year-old on Great American 4, he's actually said he's going to spend at least 2 hours a day recording video blogs and answering questions from school kids across the USA as he tries to spread the sport of sailing, but also to encourage more American sailors to take part in the Vendée Globe. So I just wonder how you divide up your time, your 24 hours when you're sailing on your own and you have so much to do.
People say, do you get bored? And I said, you never get the chance to get bored, because as you say, there is so much to do. You have media requirements, you've got race requirements, you need to sleep, eat and drink, you need to sail, you need to check the weather, you need to do your strategy, you need to be sailing fast and make the right decisions. And I've actually done some coaching with Rich, and actually one of the things I laughed about was he's so busy giving all this information back that I was like, don't forget to sail the boat. And you know, you need to make sure you time things. Your timing runs around the weather downloads that are critical twice a day, and you can get them up to 4 times a day, because that's where you make the strategy and your decisions, and then you can plan when you're going to need to jibe or do a sail change or what the weather's going to be.
Okay, so where does that weather information come from?
So with the Vendée Globe, it's very controlled where you can go on the internet, just so that you can't get any outside assistance, and they can kind of monitor it. So you can go to like a one-stop shop that allows you to download a grid file, so all the wind information, you can get satellite pictures, and you can get current flows and water temperatures, and you can get also synoptic charts, so you can see what you think is going to happen in the next few days. And you put all that information together, you make a decision what you think is going to happen, you run the routing software with your navigation program, and it kind of puts a suggested route, and you look at that and you analyze that, and then you make your decision. So it's, some people kind of press the button and follow it, some people press the button, analyze it, and then decide what's best for where your competitors are, because you get their positions 3 times a day as well. So there's so much going on that, you know, it's kind of key to remember to eat and sleep as well to keep yourself functioning, because otherwise these decisions, when you're looking at weather and you're planning your strategy, or you have to do a sail change, they get harder and harder as you get tired. So managing yourself is really important. But especially with someone like Rich, who has a huge education program that's going out to like 1 million children around the world, China, Taiwan, America, France. He's so determined to do that, that's almost as important as his race. So it's that finding that balance for sure.
And also every time you change direction, you're below moving sails around to get the balance right.
That's right. On this boat, you're carrying all your food and all your spares and supplies for the whole voyage. And if you change jibe or tack, you not only move all your stores, spares, supplies, food, but you move your sails, and you move it all so that the boat is optimally trimmed, whether it's forward and aft and side to side. So you always want the weight on the high sides of the boats as flat as possible. You want the weight fore and aft in the right place. If it's very light winds, you want to lift the big fat wide bottoms that these boats have out of the water. If you're going very fast downwind, you'll probably have the weight further back to keep those rudders in the water and working. Now the foiling boats are even more different because they're almost sat above the water, so their trim is really important, and the motion is quite violent. So it's a case of getting used to that almost white noise torture that the foils give you, as well as the motion, and making sure that the trim's just right.
Now you mentioned that in passing, the noise, but this is actually quite a significant issue with these new foiling boats, and I think for those who haven't been on a foiling boat, we have no idea just how noisy they are.
It's incredible, and it is similar to a multi-hull, because the foils almost change this 60-foot monohull into a multi-hull by having that extended little piece out the side. And the motion's very similar and the noise is similar, but if you've never done it, it is incredible that these guys are expected to sleep and live in that space. And a lot of them are actually taking noise-cancelling headphones with them just to give them that little bit of space when they need it. It means you can still hear and relate to what the boat's doing, but it's just kind of allowing you to just switch off from that constant high pressure. I mean, I think they made it illegal with that white torture that they do in the military, so and it is that kind of pressure that you can put on someone.
What is that? What is the noise? Is it high-pitched whine? Is it constant rattling?
No, there's nothing constant about it. That's the problem. So you never quite get used to it and be able to drone it out. It's constantly changing. It's quite high-pitched. Things are good when it's all there, but then if it keeps changing too much, it's just when the boat's dropping on and off the foils. And they don't tend to porpoise much, you know, they don't do the bow in and up and down motion that everybody had when they first put foils in. But they've got this kind of wobble on that gives those foils that high-tuned pitch that you have to get used to.
And where are we going to see most of that foiling happen? Which stretches of the race?
Well, interestingly enough, as these guys leave the bay, the wind's going to increase, and the foilers probably take off on a reach and broad reach at about 12 knots. But there is talk that Wow, look at that top seat in the house on
Perfect.
the big wheel. That's awesome.
Until it goes down.
Yeah.
And then it goes up again.
And
then it goes down.
But the Hugo Boss foils are slightly different shapes. So we can see Edmund de Rothschild here. They've got very curved upwards, and their boards go in a downwards direction from the hull. On Hugo Boss, they're a more horizontal board coming out onto the deck, and they have a much flatter approach where the shaft is actually generating the lift. And with his different shape of foils, he thinks, or there is rumour, that they can foil from about 10 knots of wind. So we should see him foiling slightly earlier than the other boats, and if the breeze fills in close enough to the bay and our cameras can keep up, we may see them foiling soon after the start line. But that all depends on how far out they have to go to get the extra breeze.
Our colleagues on the dock and on the water are giving us some fantastic images of these boats, but it's hard to get across the size of them, really. The upwind sail area is slightly bigger than a tennis court. Downwind, it's double that. So if you can imagine sticking a tennis court on your mast, that's what they have to deal with. But right now, all is calm. They're soaking up the warmth of the autumn sunshine here at Les Sables d'Olonne. They make their way up the famous canal into the Atlantic Ocean. And then, as Peter Hirema joked in his interview earlier on, they head south and leave the European winter behind.
Yeah, and actually with the forecast as it is, I talked earlier that they're on for a record to the equator. Between 6 and 7 days for the foiling boats was in the routing. And so we're talking in a couple of days they'll be in much warmer conditions, and 3 or 4 days they'll be sailing in shorts.
Lovely.
It makes me jealous.
Very different conditions as they head from the northern hemisphere down to the southern hemisphere, and then make their way into the dreaded Southern Ocean. Why is it so dreaded?
It's that hostile environment where rescue is a long way away. In fact, your closest rescue is your fellow competitor. So the stress is on the person at the back of the line because there's no one behind him. So it kind of does encourage you to keep up, because when you're relying on your fellow competitor, you don't want to have to make them come back a long way. There isn't a lot of shipping down there. The environment is cold, and just the cold water shock alone will mean that survival is limited. And you know, 9 times out of 10, the issues are going to happen at the worst possible place, which is inevitably in the Southern Ocean. When you're sailing down the Atlantic, you've got land pretty close, so rescue is relatively easy. But obviously that changes once you get down the bottom and you're sailing around Antarctica. Interesting, there's a perimeter zone around Antarctica. Rather than having ice skates, there's a limiter, a line that they can't go south of. And this is to keep them safe of any ice. It's to keep them north of the ice. And obviously, the further south the boats go, the shorter the distance and the quicker the trip round. So what you'll find is a lot of the leading pack sailing along this line, and the penalty for infringing this line is huge. They have to go back west of that mark. So it would have a huge impact, and a lot of the skippers are fearful of falling prey to maybe going to sleep or having a wind shift and knocking on that line and being penalised. So that's a lot of pressure.
And there's no technology that can help with that. You have to sort of half sleep the whole time and always have an ear on the boat.
You set alarms and you know where your boat is, and you set alarms for all the different things. And interestingly enough, I've sailed with Alex Thompson offshore, and he's not the easiest of people to wake up. And he said that he is always fearful of this, and he set his alarm in a previous race where he thought he was going for 40 minutes and woke up 5 hours later. And you can miss a shift, and when they're sailing at 20, 30 knots, you know, that's a lot of distance that you've covered in that time. And he's actually got this new technology where his watch he can set with an app on his iPhone, and it gives him an electric shock that you literally can't sleep through. So if electric shock is what you need, then that's the technology to use. But yeah, the skippers will use all sorts to make sure they wake up. The alarms that they generally have are audible, and are ridiculously loud. But it was really interesting to see Alex explaining about this electric shock process to see if it would help wake
white
him up.
noise and electric shocks. It's beginning to sound even worse than we were making out at the start when we were talking about how dangerous and difficult this race is. So Sebastian Jost boats here, the Edmund de Rothschild. You've talked about the lack of comforts on board, no toilets. Where do you sleep? What sort of facilities are there below deck?
So many of the boats now will probably just have a bean bag, so you can have that flexibility to put yourself in a position that's comfortable. You generally try and be on the high side. The computer area, the nav station now isn't so much a fixed area. Some of the older boats it will be fixed, but most of these new boats will have a laptop and a little bit that kind of can rotate, so you can just always be sat on the right side. So you're always trying to optimize your weight into the right place to keep the performance of the boat. So very few of them lie down in a bunk as such. It'll be more catnapping in a beanbag. So many of these spectators now actually have the ability to now go on spectator boats, and will be heading to meet their spectator boats to head out on the water to watch the actual start process. Many others of the public will stay on the beach so they can see the boats out at sea. As we can see them all with full mains hoisted, so we know that the wind's relatively light in the bay. Quite often the boats are going to be reefing as they head out now towards Finisterre, probably tomorrow morning. And then some of the public will go and see the big screens that are put on around Le Sable d'Olonne, so they can keep following the coverage that our cameramen are picking up. And the weather is just absolutely incredible. I'm just so excited that they've got such good conditions and such a great forecast to just head off so easily.
And all manner of craft out on the water. Anyone with a floating vessel will be out there to cheer on the 29 sailors of the fleet. The race village absolutely teeming with people, lots of entertainment for all ages there. But then the focus, once these boats have left, the focus really moves from Les Sables d'Olonne to the race HQ, which is near the Eiffel Tower in Paris, which I think is a stroke of genius really by the organisers, because they've really put it at the heart of French culture. And anyone can go along. Should you be visiting France over the next 3 months, go along to the Vendée Globe Race HQ. All sorts of gizmos and technology there that will put you in touch with the boats, as well as, of course, following the race online anyway. Security, given the recent history in France, has been doubled this year around the Vendée Globe. It's almost hard to believe, really, that you even have to talk about these things when this morning, you know, walking through town, there was such a festival atmosphere. You sort of forget that below the surface there's always the police and the military keeping people safe and keeping an eye on things. Very much a working port still, Les Sables d'Olonne. It used to be one of the big centres of the fishing industry in this part of France many years ago. It still has a fishing fleet that operates and works out of the port. And looking absolutely fantastic. So the sailors now have almost exactly a couple of hours before the official start to the race, which we will of course be covering live on TV stations around the world and online. 4 knots is the speed limit.
Well, the boats will be doing a lot more than that once that start line goes, that's for sure.
And interestingly, you know, these guys are going out there, putting themselves through the mill, and the prize money at the end of it is is just 600,000 euros as a prize pot. The winner will get 160,000. And this is the route
The
that they'll
glory
take.
is to go south to the equator, around the South Atlantic, St. Helena, high pressure there, into the Southern Ocean, under the Cape of Good Hope, working your way along that perimeter around Antarctica, south of Australia and New Zealand, and then you go across the Pacific to the notorious Cape Horn, the furthest proximity south. You head back up the Atlantic then, probably in difficult conditions, heading to the equator to get north into that final stretch into the North Atlantic and back home to Les Sables d'Olonne, to a welcome that is almost as impressive as that departure was that we've just seen.
And when they set off, it'll be some time before they see land. I guess as they head down that coast of Western Europe, they keep it in sight or not far.
Yeah, I mean,
it
does depend on the routing there and the weather that they get there, but there's a chance there, see Finisterre, Cap Finisterre there as they go around that corner. But you're pretty soon out of the sight of land, and what they'll be keen on is trying to keep at least a boat or two around them in sight so that they keep an eye on where their competition is. They do get position reports, so they'll be able to see where everyone is. But it's getting their boat in the right position for the weather that they get downloaded.
So all 29 sailors and boats are out on the water. They now have a little bit of time to sort themselves out before the start, and there'll be plenty of them who'll really be feeling the nerves now. We've seen that evidenced already in the pictures from the dock. 40,000 kilometers of unknown await them, and they take that first step into it in 1 3/4 hours. From me, Alec Wilkinson, and Dee Kafari, it's goodbye for now, and we'll see you soon for the start.